What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Who You Got With.
MELO
And RADO is a sports podcast where we talk about your favorite sports highlights, sports debates, and sports matchups. And we're in the middle of January right now. The NFL pretty much just ended. Melo, what's going on, man? You ready for these NFL playoffs?
No, man, it's been well, first off, I'm just doing good, just chilling.
Right? How you been? That's right.
Same old working, trying to withstand the excruciating cold that we have to deal with living where we live with,
Yo, it's
living
been
where we live
brutal. Western
in
New York right
Rochester.
now.
Yeah, it
Brutal.
was single digits this week. So definitely a great time to sit inside and catch up on sports. And like you said, football season is pretty much over middle of January, and that means only one thing, baby, and that's playoffs. And
Right.
I'll be honest, like I love football. Yes, I'll be honest, this season was exciting. A lot of things you expected to happen, a lot of things you didn't expect to happen. Definitely a little bit more competitive than usual. Not the clear favorites. Were just doing what they were supposed to do, but the competitiveness of the playoffs is just another level on match. And obviously, there's a reason why only some teams make it. Some of them can't even, wouldn't even be a good team to even compete. That's why you got the top of the crop facing each other. But I have a absolute love for playoff time, and I'm just ecstatic that we actually got here. Especially because we first year doing the podcast was our first NFL season. So right now into the playoffs, I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see if our Super Bowl picks were actually who we wanted them to be, and just wrap up the NFL season. What
That's
about you?
true.
How you been feeling?
That's true. I mean, this is definitely our first, going into our first NFL playoffs, talking about, and on our podcast at least. And I'm with you. I'm very excited about these playoffs, man. But it's interesting because obviously the NFL, added that last week of the season, and of course they
Mm-hmm.
just added that extra wild card team as well. So now there's only one person getting the
One
bye.
bye.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, obviously there's seven teams in each division now getting into the playoffs. So it's interesting seeing like the back of the pack, kind of pushing up the rear and trying to get some of those top high teams to make them lose. It's going to be a interesting weekend, that's for sure, coming up in these wild card playoffs.
No, like you said, man, NFL honestly that's what was a good season for us as well because the NFL just did a lot of things. Obviously they had a lot to deal with the COVID restrictions.
True, true.
But whole new season when it comes to that. Pretty much added another week, added another team. Now we have six matchups in the wild card round, and only one or two teams getting that first round bye. So definitely a little bit different. Like I said, a lot more competitive.
That's for
It
sure.
made things completely interesting that last week because there was so many playoff implications just as we was inching closer and closer when
Yeah.
we finally got to that last week. All hell broke loose. It was it was wonderful in a way because you just that's what you love about sports, unexpected.
Yeah, I
But it
mean,
was definitely some disappointments at the same time.
that's for sure. I
So
mean,
definitely a lot.
even came down to the last game. Obviously, the last game of the
Yeah,
NFL season. Actually, a team had to either win to get in, or they could have tied and both got in. And we could talk about that. What happened when that Chargers and Raiders game? Because that was maybe one of the most interesting things that might have happened all NFL season. The way that those both teams could have gotten into the playoffs, but didn't. Only one of them had it.
I and I think that's what got me so hyped going into playoffs is that last week.
Right.
It literally felt like it was basically do or die, and it already was playoffs for
True.
some of these teams. You had to win, you had to go home. Like it was one of
True.
those two choices, and that's why I love it because it basically last week just kick started that atmosphere,
Yeah.
to where pretty much it's do or die time, and it's time to put up or shut up, and that's why I love it
Exactly.
right now.
Exactly. I love it. So why don't we just get into it? Get into a little bit of
Exactly.
it. What happened, some of the storylines, of course, and then we'll go into the
Yeah.
matchups next week a little bit later.
Exactly. We got six games, so we're definitely gonna keep this week episode just strictly, playoff wild card round.
Exactly. Exactly.
Obviously talk about those games, but like we said, so much happened that we basically just had a second wild card round, week 18.
Exactly.
It was basically a whole other playoff week. So we definitely want to go over that also a little bit, just to really talk about what happened, how the landscape started before the week started, how it changed, and pretty much some teams made it, some teams didn't, some teams were almost a shoo-in to get in, and then they fell out. Like it's just a lot of things happen. So why don't we get started? I'll be honest. First first team I want to talk about that probably has to be the biggest surprise because it basically started off a chain that led to so many different changes all in the AFC.
Mm,
So week 18, before we started, we had obviously 7 teams. Titans had that number one seed, pretty much a shoo-in to get that lock. Chiefs were right behind them. Slim chance again, the number one seed, the Titans lose.
right.
Under them were Bengals and Bills, division champs. Then under them, you had Patriots, Colts, basically almost, Patriots were guaranteed in the playoffs at that point.
Right.
So at that point, Colts were sitting at that sixth spot with a pretty good chance of getting in. And then all it seemed that was left was that seventh spot, which was Chargers versus Raiders, not only for that spot, they also just happened to be playing each other that last week.
That's
So
true.
basically, it was almost a situation where top six is decided. Chargers versus Raiders play each other for the last spot. That's how it's
It
going to be.
seemed that way, but it seemed that way. But
Literally,
so
and it
much
was
shit happened
basically
in this
almost
game.
written in stone,
I mean, you would
especially
have
because
thought there
the
was the
Colts had to play the Jags. Like
the
so
favorites,
many
but should
teams,
have.
the favorites were supposed to win, and it seemed like they were good games to win. So you expected everything to pretty much stay where they're supposed to stay. That wasn't the case at all. Let me go at how it ended, and then we'll go in about the games. Titans wasn't first, and then in first, they won their games, did what they were supposed to do. Same
Yep.
with the Chiefs.
Right.
Chiefs was a tough one. Third, Bengals lost. Now because the Bengals lost, the Bills won, move up in third,
Right.
which is pretty
Get that
good. They
spot.
get home field, one more higher spot. Bengals move down to fourth. They pretty much just split.
Also, the Bills won their division by winning, and even
Yes,
though the Patriots, won their game, uh, obviously that they didn't have a chance to beat the Bills, for the
no. So
for the
even if the Patriots won,
right.
they definitely would have
If the Bills
lost a
would have lost,
division.
yeah. If the Bills would have
Oh
lost and the
yeah,
Patriots would have won, they would have switched places. But since the Bills won, then they won the division.
exactly. So you got top four pretty much stays the same. Bills and Bengals split. Bottom three is where it gets absolutely hectic. What
Right.
was once Patriots, Colts, winner of Chargers versus Raiders, turned into Raiders,
Raiders.
Patriots, and Steelers.
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 How the hell they get in?
When I say there was a small
Man,
chance
Rock.
of Steelers making the playoffs, clearly, they were still basically the Ravens who they were playing technically had a better chance. Like there was basically 3 teams in front of the Steelers and good playoff chances to get that last spot.
That's true. If the Ravens would have beat the Steelers, they would have had a better shot for sure to make the playoffs. You're 100% right. Yeah.
So you're
They
wondering
would have.
how do we get there?
Yeah.
How do we get to Colts dropping from seventh, Raiders dropping to fifth, and somehow the Steelers entering the playoffs instead of someone like the Chargers or the Colts? It
True.
starts off with the Colts.
Yep.
26-11 loss, which is the worst team in football, in the
Against the
Jacksonville
Jags,
Jaguars.
who actually still have the number one pick after winning that game.
They
Like
know they
they
went out on a bang.
right.
We had a talk at the beginning of the year whether Trevor Lawrence's season was a bust. Didn't think so. They got a lot to learn, but this was a good way of kicking the team out the playoffs when you know you can't get in. Best thing you want to do if you can't get in, honestly. You know what I mean? That's petty
So
as hell, but that's just what it
especially
is. What it
especially in the
is.
last week of the season, if you got nothing else to play for, that's
No,
something to play
you
for.
want to play
That's something to play
exactly,
for.
and they came out and they played. Colts came out flat. Andrew Luck looked horrible. Oh
Yes, he did.
wow, Andrew Luck. This man said
Nah,
Andrew
Andrew
Luck.
Luck. Nah,
Carson.
I mean, he kind of played like a injured Andrew Luck.
No,
So
that's what I'm
I
saying.
mean,
Andrew Luck.
he played.
That's what he looked like. Andrew Luck trying to come back, but nah. Carson Wentz played horrible. So they're basically still have a slim chance of making it though. But at
Right.
this point, they need Pittsburgh to lose to the Ravens and Miami to lose to the Patriots.
The Patriots.
Neither one of those happened.
Nope. Nope.
The Pittsburgh game was a hit or miss, especially because the Ravens has really been inconsistent. Divisional games gonna be tough fought. So at that point, that 16-13 win over the Ravens for the Pittsburgh honestly wasn't
True.
that surprising.
I
I
mean,
just
yeah,
didn't
they
expect them
they
to make the
definitely
playoffs still.
yeah, they definitely got the best the higher end of the stick because Lamar Jackson's obviously wasn't playing and you had Huntley in the game, so they
And even
definitely.
then, it still would have been a close game and the Ravens could have walked away.
I think the
That's,
Ravens would have won if Lamar was playing for sure.
oh no, for sure.
Yeah,
100%. But that's what I'm saying. Even without Lamar, the Steelers weren't showing to win that game.
not at
So
all.
even though they won that game, they still should have never made the playoffs. But then Colts lose, Pats lose,
Yep,
Ravens lose,
Ravens lose.
Raiders lose. No, I'm sorry, Chargers lose.
Chargers lose against that last game.
It took 3 to 4 teams losing for the Colts and Chargers to basically say no to their playoff chances, and Ravens technically because they were above the Steelers. For the Steelers to hop all three of them to get that last seed.
Yeah, yeah. And it's what's crazy is that Pittsburgh had to pretty much win their last two games just to get into playoffs too. I mean, obviously this year everyone knows might be Ben Roethlisberger's last year, so for him to even make the playoffs, I guess we definitely got to give him some props just to even make the playoffs with this type of team where they were definitely on and off all season. They had a lot of shortcomings all season and some injuries, but I mean for them to win their final two games and to make it in, obviously with a lot of luck and some of that. I mean, I definitely want to talk about that Chargers and Raiders game. I mean, the one thing that had to happen was the Jags had to beat, the Colts for that game to really matter even more. The Chargers and Raiders game to matter even more. We were talking about this last podcast on that little theory that I had. If if the Jags won and then the tie could have happened, if both the Raiders and Chargers would have won, they would have both made the playoffs and they would have kicked off the Steelers. And what happened in that game?
We weren't that far in this phase because I was like, yo, this man tripping. Ain't no way that they about to.
I know, right?
We weren't that far off from that situation.
I know, like seconds, like really, literally seconds away from it. But I mean, I guess the last second they decided that they could have won the game and they took it. I mean, in one way they were kind of playing for positioning because you can see that if they would have. Exactly, and they probably would have played a team like the Chargers if they would have tied. And now, I think they get a lot better deal with the Bengals, coming up. So it's definitely a better look for the Raiders. So I think they definitely made the right decision in winning. But it would have just been so interesting. Like that. That's what makes like the NFL season so crazy and interesting. And obviously also like a lot of these teams losing. Like I mean, you're talking about the AFC only right now, pretty much like all these teams losing. Like Jags beating the Colts. Like I mean, obviously the Patriots lost. I mean, even like there was a lot of close games. Even obviously the Chiefs game was close. Like we could talk about like a lot of these teams too. Like the Steelers game was close. All these games came down to it pretty much last possession. And I mean, luckily the Steelers got in somehow, some way. It's definitely a luck of a draw for them.
And hey, most of them already talking about how this is Ben Roethlisberger retirement party coming up this week against the Chiefs. So right now, they basically struggle to get in, and obviously, don't got the greatest matchup going in that first round. But that's what the playoffs is about. So hey, at the very least, they got it in, and they got an invite to the dance, and that's
exactly.
They got the
anything can happen in the playoffs.
Exactly. So definitely, I'll be honest. If you ask me, every single week from week 1 to week 18, do you think the Steelers are making the playoffs? I promise you, I would have said no even up until last week. 18 weeks in a row. I would have said no 18 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I probably would have been right there with you up until last week. I mean, because that Jacksonville thing.
Even then, I still took the Ravens over them honestly last week.
Yeah.
Because Huntley hasn't been playing that
I
bad.
wasn't sure that I wasn't sure that the Ravens were going to just because Huntley really wasn't playing great the last few weeks. I mean, the first time he stepped in there, he played good, but after that they've been losing and they haven't had any run game with
Right,
him.
they can't seem to win though. Right.
Right. And they're letting the quarterback do everything again, just like they were with Jackson. And Huntley's not Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
so he,
Mm-hmm.
he just can't do it. But I just really thought that the Jags really had a shot against the Colts. I mean, obviously you would think that somebody like Jonathan Taylor would go off against the Jags, but Jags run defense is not that bad, so they definitely stepped it up against him in the first half. He only had like 40 yards, total in the first half, which was great because then the Colts are starting to play from behind and they got to keep up with the Jags. And nobody really thought that, who thought that they were going
Mm-hmm.
to have to keep up with the Jags. They thought that, you know, obviously Jonathan Taylor was going to get his yards. He was trying to go for that 2,000-yard
You would
mark,
think, right?
but obviously didn't get it. And the Jags definitely played a hell of a game to spoil the Colts' chances. I mean, if you would have said 2 weeks ago, would the Colts make the playoffs? I would have said, hell yeah,
Hell
because
yeah,
like they
right.
were on a
Hell yeah.
six-game win streak at the time. If you remember, they beat teams like the Bills, they beat the Chiefs, like they were on a crazy win streak. They beat the
Mm-hmm.
Titans at the time too, so they were
And
definitely
the
on a hot one.
Patriots, they ended the Patriots win streak.
That's right. They ended an eight game win streak to the Patriots as well. So it was it's a team that you would have thought that was gonna you really had a different direction, but I mean, like you said, like the last few games of the season, you never know. It just comes down to it, and especially when you add a seventh team like this, you add a seventh spot.
It makes it so much more interesting. That's what I loved about it. They added another week and another team. So many more possibilities as you can see.
Exactly.
So many
Exactly.
different more scenarios. Like it really brought out a lot more. Like it just made it more
Yeah.
competitive and made it more fun.
In week 17, there was 13 teams in the AFC that
EFC,
that were that had a chance to make the playoffs. That was in week 17. Like
1 week away.
with 1 week away. In week 18, there were still 10 teams that were, had a chance because even the Ravens still had a little shot.
Right.
So,
And the Steelers were last on
right,
that list.
right,
And
exactly.
they hopped three teams to get the
Yeah.
last spot. That's the
So,
crazy. That's what I love about that. And that's why the AFC was just. We kind of knew this was going to happen in the AFC all year.
yeah, I
All
mean,
of them were hanging around
there
each
wasn't a
other.
number one there. There was no
Exactly. They were all hanging around each other. Yep, yep.
everyone was moving
Um,
up and out positioning, so you never knew. Like Bills were up there in the beginning, then obviously like
Bills, Titans, and Chiefs pretty
Chiefs
much
started getting
kept
hot,
trading
Titans
top
getting
three
hot.
spots.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And at one point, the Bills were in fourth because they started losing. The Bengals slid up there.
Patriots moved up.
Yeah,
They switched again.
exactly.
So I
So
mean,
no,
they're all like
that was
around.
hectic.
They're all like around like each other though, so it's a lot of good competition there.
And that's why it's crazy because it's same have this you have the same thing in basketball where everyone talks about how the West is more competitive, just like the NFC. But at the end of
True,
the day,
true,
like
true.
yes, the West might be more competitive, but right now the AFC is competitive in its own right.
Right.
Like
I
the
mean,
teams are competitive with those teams more than likely. Whoever comes out the NFC is going to get the Super Bowl. More than likely, whoever comes out the West in the NBA is going to win that
yeah,
ring. You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah.
how it usually is.
I can't like I know the analogy and people definitely bring that up a lot. It's just so much different in football because they get to play their own division. People in their division
Twice a
pretty
game,
much
yeah.
six times in the whole year. That's like one third of your games. You're playing people in your own division. Plus, you're only playing somebody from the opposite division 4 games because usually like a AFC team like they rotate. Obviously, AFC East plays like NFC East and AFC West. So they switch off. So like in the NBA, you get to play the East
Everybody.
a lot more. So I mean, you're only really playing guys in your division, and you can see like everyone in the AFC is pretty much around each other. They're playing each other, but they're
Right.
losing to each other too. Like there's no, like you said, there's
Exactly.
no top dog, and NFC it's a little different. You can kind of see that there's at least like I would say 2 to 3 teams that are really kind of ahead of the competition there.
So and so because besides the Packers, to me, the rest of them hang together.
I mean,
And
yeah, we can say that,
honestly,
but I mean,
let's just go right into it.
with teams like the Rams up there and the Cowboys, I know we could definitely like. I mean, we could let's break down like obviously what happened the past week as well, because obviously what looked like what should have happened was that if the Rams would have won their game, then they actually would have moved up to second place, and obviously Arizona they had to win as well, and if if Arizona won and the Rams would have lost, and Arizona would have switched with the Rams, Arizona would have won the NFC West championship. Also, there was things. Let's see what else could have happened. I'm just looking at all the different scenarios that they could have happened before. We even break down. Obviously,
So with the NFC, it was mostly all the teams were set except
it
for the
was said just
49ers.
it's mostly
It was the order.
exactly. It was seeding.
Exactly.
The only one that was really obviously really in the debate was between Philadelphia and New Orleans because New Orleans did have a shot, to actually make.
49ers in New Orleans. Philadelphia was
I'm sorry, excuse
they
me. Yeah,
clinched.
you're right because you're right. Philadelphia clinched week 17.
And
That's
in
right.
Philadelphia, what basically, it seemed like Philadelphia was the only one that had a legit worry about trying to find their
Move
placing.
up just a little. Yeah,
Everyone else was supposed to be set in stone once again, like we said in the AFC, and it just didn't turn out that way.
that's true. Yeah.
So we'll just pretty much go hop right into it on how the NFC played out, and then like I'll be
Right.
honest, I know
So
you pay a lot
Tampa,
more
I
attention to
mean,
the Rams because
for
those are your
sure, but
boys.
definitely,
Who,
definitely a lot of the other teams. Well, obviously, like Green Bay, they were already first seed no matter what. They held down that first seed because they had more wins against NFC teams,
mm-hmm,
against Tampa Bay. So even though
clear top.
even if Tampa Bay would have lost would have won their game, there was no movement there. Tampa Bay had to move, or basically had to win their game to stay in that second position, that second place spot,
Well,
because
they were in third.
they weren't third because obviously Dallas was in fourth and the Rams were in second. And what
Right.
happened
Yeah.
was obviously the Rams. I mean, we'll definitely talk about this game against the 49ers. And the 49ers are a tough team.
Right.
And we'll definitely talk about this division because, I mean, that NFC West division, we've got three teams in the playoffs. And we got three teams in the NFC in the playoffs. And obviously, that's tough for any division to do. But 3 out of 7 teams in the playoffs from one division.
One division. That's nice.
I mean,
That's nice. I
and
like that.
obviously
Yeah. Yeah.
this was definitely an off year for a team like the Seahawks, and they were a tough play too. Obviously, you saw like that
Right.
season they were starting to
And if
play
it
a little
wasn't for
tougher.
Russell's injury, they would have been in there
I mean,
in the
that's for sure. I
contention.
mean, and you pretty much saw just what happened last week in Week 18. They just beat Arizona. Um, they just beat Arizona Cardinals. So you can definitely see that they have potential to even beat like playoff teams. Obviously, the Rams were supposed to beat the 49ers, but that was still a tough team for them. The 49ers always play them tough, and we said this in the podcast, or I said this one because the last 6 games that the 49ers had, they beat them five times, and now this was the 6th game, and they just beat them for a 6th time again. For some reason, like Kyle Shanahan, he just plays so good against the Rams. I got to give Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of credit because we were talking about
Yeah,
if
you
Jimmy
was
could
trying to ship
play.
him off already.
I was. I mean,
I
even
told
though
you
he
they was
might
about
not
to.
make
I told you if he was anywhere near good, he was starting that game.
Yeah, and you totally were right, and I was totally wrong about that because I thought that I mean the way that it seemed, at least during the week, was that Shanahan said that if he's not 100%, then he's not going to play him. Even if he's 80%, he said he's not going to play him. And Jimmy was coming out and saying that he's not 100%. So I was thinking that there's no way he's going to play him. But obviously Saturday came around, they had a good walk around, and then they played a good Sunday, and he definitely played a hell of a Sunday, and their run game was great during that game against the Rams. We definitely let go of a lot of things. We also had a few turnovers that were costly for us, and we can't play like that. But I got to tell you this, man, the 49ers are going to be tough for whoever they play in the playoffs. And right now they're going to be playing the Dallas Cowboys, and that is going to be a crazy matchup because, I
It
mean,
is.
the way that I'm seeing, Garoppolo doesn't look that injured to me. I mean, I know that I was saying that Lance should play, and I thought that Garoppolo is probably done for the 49ers. I still think he's done next year for the 49ers. I don't think he's going to be there next year. Doesn't matter what happens in these playoffs. But
Right.
I think that he could definitely do something with this team. Like, this team is getting hot at the right time. They're healthy right now. They got a good defense, a top 10 defense, and a top 12 offense. So, they're definitely like up there as one of the best teams in the NFL. I definitely got to give them some credit because the last 3 games they had to pretty much win, just to get into the playoffs. The 49ers.
No, right.
So, it's been a playoff game for them every single week since like week 7 or week 16 for them. So definitely got to give them some credit. They played really tough against the Rams, and it was a divisional game, so I knew it was going to be a tough one. It was going
Right,
to come down
always.
to it. But
I knew them and the Cardinals, the Rams and the Cardinals definitely had the tough matchups when it came
exactly,
to what they had to do to try to get the division and try to get a good seeding for that last week for sure.
exactly, that's another one, the Cardinals and the Seahawks, because obviously a lot of people are talking about Russell Wilson. This is going to be the last time we're seeing him in the Seahawks uniform, and I mean some people say no, some people are looking at the Giants and they're making a lot of moves right now. They just made obviously fired their coach and their GM,
The
so
Giants
they're
have a
making a lot
worse
of
team
moves.
than the Seahawks. Why would he go there?
I
Why
actually
would
totally
he
agree with
DK
you.
Metcalf for Saquon Barkley?
I totally agree
How is
with
that
you.
going to
It's
help
just,
him?
I mean, he is married to Sierra, and there's a lot bigger market. I mean, what she can do sing in Seattle, like the dive bars in Seattle. I don't see her singing in coffee
Yeah,
shop. I'm just saying.
yeah. What you
That's
mean?
definitely a reason. I mean, Las Vegas looks good too. I mean, we'll see what happens with Derek Carr and the rest of the season. I don't want to look too far into the future, but as far as like just that game, like a lot of people did think that that might be the last time he's playing in the Seahawks, and even for himself, if he's thinking that, just like a small piece of in his mind is thinking that of course he's gonna want to go out with a win, and he definitely showed out that game. He played really well, I thought, and DK Metcalf played good. They had a good running game with Rashad Penny, and they were able to
Mhm.
beat a depleted Cardinals team, because right now the Cardinals, hopefully they get some players back. They're hopefully getting J.J. Watt back, but obviously Hopkins is out, so
Mhm.
they got a lot of holes they got to plug. Um, Connor is still out there, hoping that they're going to get him back next week, so we'll see what happens with that. But they're still depleted, and you can see that the last few weeks they've been on and off. I mean, they had a good win against Dallas Cowboys. They beat them in a close game, 24-23. But as you can see, that they're just they're not consistent enough right now.
No, definitely. Right now, I'll be honest. It's so hard to decide who's coming out this first round on any of these NFC matchups because what should have been certain easy matchups just turned into not so easy matchups, basically.
That's
So basically, like we said, the Packers were above the pack the whole time. They
yeah,
pretty much kept first locked in place. Start of week 18, it was Rams, Bucks, Cowboys, Cardinals, 49ers in quotations, and then the Eagles were locked in basically in seven.
right.
So at that point, Rams were basically sitting in second. Cardinals, if they would have won and Rams would have lost, would have hopped into second, all the way
True.
from fifth.
Right.
That's what they were looking at. Best case scenario, that's what they wanted. Uh, Everyone else was pretty much just they had no choice. Cowboys really weren't gonna move up or down unless other people lost or won.
Right. They needed
So
Tampa to lose to move up to
they
second.
exactly they couldn't do anything without other teams. So it looked like they were pretty much stuck about to face the Cardinals, which did not look like a good first round matchup for them. Rams are about to face the Eagles, and I remember specifically saying Eagles want to try to win their game against the Cowboys to move up
True.
to end up facing the Bucks,
They didn't
who
want
was a
that.
little
Yeah.
more injured instead of
Right.
the Rams. And then basically 49ers and Saints were fighting for that seventh spot on whoever was going to face the Bucks at the time. Clearly, all that landscape finished.
Right.
Cardinals lost, Rams lost, Eagles lost,
Eagles lost.
and 49ers won. So Packers clearly stayed in first. Bucks moved from third to second, took second place.
Yep.
Rams lost, dropped them from second to fourth,
Fourth.
moving Cowboys from fourth to third. Now, Cardinals stayed exactly where they were supposed to stay, but since the 49ers won, they guaranteed their spot. And since the Eagles lost, they guaranteed their spot at six instead of seven. Now the landscape is so different. Bucks now in second will face Eagles, which I'll be honest, probably what the Eagles wanted, even though they
I think
initially
so.
thought they were going to have to win their game to
Right.
get that
To get
result.
that. Yeah.
They
But
thought
luckily,
that's
yeah. I mean,
luckily
luckily the
everyone
Rams
else is
were.
losing,
Yeah. The Rams
so
didn't
they
find
got a
those.
chance
Yeah.
for it. Exactly. So Eagles honestly got the. If anyone won from this whole scenario in the NFC this week, it was the Eagles.
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
going to win?
I was.
I
I would
don't think
say so.
so, but it's the best option for them. Because I'll be honest, everyone might say the Cowboys, but the Eagles don't want to face the Cowboys again. Hell no, they
It
about to
was
get destroyed
definitely,
for the third time.
yeah. I mean, it was a close game, obviously, but you definitely saw it was a close game in the beginning, and then obviously you saw what the Cowboys can do. I mean, the Cowboys kind of know the Eagles too well. I think to face them a
Exactly.
third time right now, especially like their front four against against Jalen Hurts. But I think I
Would have
agree
been
with you.
bad.
The way better the
Eagles
better
got
matchup is
the better matchup. Yeah. So they're happy with that. Cowboys, and here's the weird thing. They're probably happier with the 49ers over the Cardinals. But
oh
with the
see
way the
I
49ers
don't know, bro.
play,
Yeah,
no, here's the thing.
I'm
On
actually
paper, the
scared. Yeah.
Cardinals is a better team. But on matchup wise,
Yes. Yeah.
49ers is about to be so
I
difficult for the
totally agree.
Cowboys. And it's so crazy because I kept saying like Cowboys want anyone else but the Cardinals. Because like I said, Cowboys are my sleeper team. If they could just, and in my head, I'm like, if they had the Cardinals, if they could beat the Cardinals first round, I got them going to the championship, the NFC championship.
Well, you. But I
But
mean,
now with the 49ers, I'll be honest, like, I still might choose the Cowboys for that team, like for that game, but like that's gonna be a tough nitty gritty game. And honestly, like specific people have to show off. They have
yeah,
to
that's for sure.
show off for and we'll talk about that when we
See,
actually get to the
yeah,
matchups.
that's for sure. But for me, for the matchup wise, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Cardinals would have. I'm sorry, the Cowboys would have had a better time with the Cardinals because they're so depleted, like I said, and right now, like I was saying, the 49ers just been so hot lately. They literally been having to play a playoff game the last 3 weeks and been winning. So, do you want to play a team like that? There's got a great defense, a great offense, can really run the ball, and the one thing that the Cowboys are bad against is the run. So for me,
So
it's tough to.
basically,
I wouldn't want to
Cowboys
play a team
got
like
the
that.
toughest matchup regardless.
I
They
totally
were
agree with
screwed.
that. For me, I think
They
the
were
Cowboys
screwed.
got screwed this week.
They,
They won their game and they got screwed somehow,
they got
some
screwed.
way.
Yep.
Like they weren't supposed to play the 49ers at all. They were supposed to either play the Cardinals or they were supposed to play the Eagles. But somehow
Mm-hmm.
because the Rams lost and the Cardinals lost, then Tampa
And
Bay,
and the 49ers won.
right?
They play 49ers.
You get to
But I'll
play.
be honest, they got the second worst matchup in this NFC because if I'm being 100% truthful, the Rams having to play the Cardinals in the first round is absolutely heartbreaking.
It's tough. It's
Heartbreaking.
for sure.
It's
It's tough.
tough because
It's
they're
tough.
both Super Bowl teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sucks. And they just fought each other twice this season.
Yes.
And yeah, we
Exactly.
want to see them fight again. Yeah, we do. Not in a wild card round.
Not this round. I mean, if you
Like,
remember, just
oh
when
man.
it was week 9, the Cardinals were 9-0, the Rams were 8-1, and they were playing each other for that number one spot in the NFC West at that time. So they were like pretty much the top teams in the middle of the season. They were the two best teams, I would say, at that time.
No, and it's basically that's that, and that's I love the division matchups, but like I said, not so early. Like it's crazy because I don't want to see Cardinals versus Rams because I want both of them to move on a little further.
And I kind
But
of
I
agree
do
with you
want to
there.
see Bills versus Patriots right
Mm.
now.
See,
I want
I
right
don't know,
now.
man. I don't
Nah,
know.
I need one of them. I need one of them to put up or shut up right now.
See,
And
for
it's
me, it
me
just
because I'll be honest, it's my bias against the Bills
oh
versus
for
the
sure.
Patriots.
I feel you. But
Like
I just
I like
the thing is that we've seen them so recently, like we were just saying, like they
yeah.
play each other, and plus the Bills and Patriots, they literally played each other twice in 3 weeks. If you
And
remember,
that's
like
why I want to see that one now, or I don't mind seeing it now
okay, I see.
because it's not as competitive as the Rams versus Cardinals matchups.
I mean
At
that's
this
more of an
point,
offensive game.
whoever
This is a
wins, it
defensive
is
game.
what it is. No one besides Bill fans are going to be upset if the Bills don't make it past the first round, and no one besides Patriots fans are going to be upset if the Patriots don't make it past the first round. The NFL is going to lose a lot with Cardinals versus Rams first round, and one of them already getting kicked out.
I totally agree with
That's a
you, man.
different type
I
of
totally agree.
matchup. You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
if you look at the Cardinals and the Rams, I would say they're the two most dynamic teams in
Yeah, it's a
football.
different type of
I
matchup.
mean,
Yeah,
even if you're looking at the like, yeah, Green Bay is great. Yeah, Tampa Bay is great. But if you're looking at the most like dynamic offenses and teams, like the storylines, like you want to see somebody like Kyler Murray who's just coming out balling out, and they got like guys like J.J. Watt who's going out there playing amazing. Like, and I don't know what it is, like 13th, 14th year. they got a young offense. Guys coming in from everywhere. D Hop coming in from Houston. Connor coming in from Pittsburgh. Like obviously Watt coming in from Houston as well, or Arizona before that too. And so they got guys coming in from everywhere, and they're dynamic offense. And the same with the Rams. The Rams got guys coming in from everywhere too. You know, obviously you got Stafford coming in from Detroit. You got guys on the defense that are coming in from everywhere. Obviously, Aaron
Mm-hmm.
Donald's pretty much the centerpiece, but Von Miller just came from Denver. You know, we still got like
Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey came from Jacksonville. So it's like these two dynamic teams that literally had like all these great players come in, and you wanted them to at least meet up in the NFC Championship game, even the divisional round maybe. But the wild card, I feel like it's still a little early. I totally agree with you that this kind of hurts. It hurts for me too because I don't think it's the worst matchup in the NFC. I still believe that Cowboys 49ers matchup is the toughest one. Just because the way that we played Arizona this year, we played them a little bit better. I know that first game they beat us, but we still played them very close. It was a 3-point game. So that first game that they beat us, in the second game we beat them, and for us it was a 10-point game. So I definitely think that we played them a little bit better than they play us, and they're gonna have to play in LA. So I mean, we'll talk about that game a little bit later, but as far as like, do I want to see that matchup now or later? I'd rather see it later. Yeah.
No, for sure. Rather see it later. So basically that's how we started, and
Yep.
that's how we got
That's
here.
how we got here.
That's how we got here. 17, 2 teams, or 7 teams on each side, 2 teams sitting, and right now we got 6 matchups, and they are hell of some matchups, man. And obviously, we're gonna get into every single one, man. We want to go
Yeah.
over each one and do what we want to do. But before we do
Before,
that,
exactly.
yes,
Yeah. I wanted to talk about like definitely want to talk about first. Um, definitely add some questions on the who you got questions, and also talk about who we had as predictions. In early in the season predictions. We had an episode 18 weeks ago actually. Picking our pretty much NFC Championship and the AFC Championship winners,
hmm
and obviously Super Bowl contenders and winners, eventual winners. And I wanted to see if we had similar picks. Are we staying with those same picks that we took before the season started, or are we changing our Super Bowl pick? Before the playoffs start.
so yeah, we each made a conference pick and a Super Bowl pick, and obviously we got the playoffs all set. So first off, I picked Chiefs versus Bucks. I picked a repeat
Right.
for both conferences, and both of them made the playoffs. What about you? Who'd you pick, and did they make the playoffs at least?
Okay, so one of the teams that I picked made the playoffs. The other one didn't. So I picked the Chiefs and the Ravens actually. That's the AFC. My AFC.
Right. Yeah.
The Chiefs and the Ravens to get in the AFC Championship game, and I picked that eventual winner to be the Ravens. But I got a little caveat to that, real quick. I mean, if you watch the
For
Ravens,
Lamar's injury.
yes, thank you. At least you understand my pain. Because if you look at the Ravens, like nobody really believed in them even in the beginning of the season because obviously they had J.K. Robbins injured in the beginning of the season. He got injured. Who was their number one running back? He was supposed to be like a standout running back this year. Last year he got 1,000 yards, so this year he was definitely supposed to step it up with Lamar. They had some injuries on their receivers early on. Watkins got injured. They still got Hollywood Brown, but they were kind of balling out. Like, yeah, they were playing close games in the beginning of the season, but they were winning those
hmm
close games. They had like 7 games that were decided by 3 points or less, which is crazy. And
Right.
they won. I think they won 6-1 in those games. So they obviously like pretty much won all their close games. And I mean, before Lamar got injured, it kind of looked like that division. And I mean, in the AFC, that division had pretty much 4 teams that were vying for playoff positioning. If you remember, in Week 16, even the Cleveland Browns were still in it for playoffs. Even Week 17, actually, the Cleveland
hmm
Browns were still in it. So you pretty much had 4 teams that could have still made the playoffs from that division. Obviously Bengals, Steelers, Browns, and the Ravens. I'm talking about, and obviously the Ravens are playing in one of the toughest divisions. They still had a pretty great record, but once Lamar got out, they couldn't do anything. They just couldn't.
Yeah, so I pulled mines up and I picked Chiefs versus Browns in the AFC Championship. I thought Browns was gonna have a real good year.
Okay, yeah,
And
yeah. I
I
mean, they
picked
they almost
Bills
did. They
as a
almost did.
backup.
They almost did until
Not
that
with Baker.
OBJ.
So
I mean,
no, they
like,
almost did until they started Baker Mayfield as a quarterback.
damn. They, I mean, they were
They did
supposed to
everything
have.
else right.
You know what? They were supposed to
That's
have
what I'm
great.
saying. They were supposed to have the best team.
But
So
even
I
then,
did
they
Chiefs
played in
versus
that tough
Browns, so
division.
Browns didn't make it.
But that was a tough division, though. So you got to give them,
And
a real.
Ravens for you didn't make it. And who you had? You had Chiefs versus Ravens.
I had Chiefs versus Ravens, but I had the Ravens beating the Chiefs, and then
The Ravens.
In the NFC, I had Green Bay versus my Rams actually. Yeah, I had Green Bay versus my Rams, but I had Green Bay
Green Bay
winning.
winning.
Yeah, Green Bay winning that game. Yeah.
I had Bucks versus Rams, and I had Bucks winning. Like I had Chiefs and Bucks going,
So the
and then I
question
had
is,
Bills as my third pick going into the AFC
right, going to the
Championship, and then I
last
had Packers as my
as your
third
third pick.
possible.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I don't remember my third possibilities, but I'm sure I had the Bills in there somewhere because just
yeah.
for that hometown love. But so the question is, do you want to change your Super Bowl picks? Obviously, your picks are pretty solid.
Pretty
I mean,
good. Number two
you still
seeds.
got, yeah, you still got both your teams in the playoffs. Both my teams would have been the Packers and the Ravens for the Super Bowl. Yours would have been Tampa Bay and the Chiefs. So both of yours are still in there. Do you want to change your picks, or are you keeping that pick for the Super Bowl?
It's hard because right now with so many injuries to
Yep.
Tampa Bay, it's hard to bet against the Packers not coming out of the NFC. And I'll be honest, Chiefs probably got the best chance coming out the AFC. They just have the best chance of getting hot behind that Mahomes magic.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right now at that number one seed with them Titans looking so good as they're looking, and it's really, really, really looking like Henry's 100% coming back for the first game in the playoffs. Like it's
That's what it's looking
basically
like. That's what it's looking like.
at this point they were that nice without him. Still got the number one seed. How can you count them out? Like, they kept that running back committee going. They finally got fucking uh their receivers too. They got Julio Jones feeling good. They got Hollywood, not Hollywood. They got
AJ
AJ
Brown.
Brown feeling good. Like at this point, Tannehill got everything he needs, man. And not to mention that front five on offense is ridiculous, and clearly that defense has been holding it down. Um, so Chiefs versus Bucks is what I want to go by, but right now it's hard to bet against the number one seeds. More the Packers. I'll be honest. I'm gonna choose the Packers over Bucks 100% because of the injuries the Bucks facing. Even with Fournette coming back, they're
Mm,
still banged up.
right.
Godwin is a huge hole. They're still having injuries on defense. But I'm struggling between the Titans and Chiefs because who knows? Like I feel like the Titans found
It's
their
pretty close.
identity
Yeah.
without Derrick Henry, and
Right.
no one knows what type of team they're gonna
Yeah.
get with him coming back.
That's a
They
great
didn't
point.
fold and roll over like they were supposed to. So at this point, they gotta be scary. So I don't know about the AFC. I'll stick with my guns and stay Chiefs versus Packers, because Chiefs are just hot. But I wouldn't be surprised if Titans take that. Bill's gonna have to show me something, for
Right.
me to
Right.
trust them. Like I said, Packers don't really see much of them losing. Uh, someone in your division in that West division might come out. And the NFC is just stacked at this
It's
point.
stacked. It's
Packers a clear
stacked, bro.
contender. Everyone else, like I said, everyone else is in the pack to me. Packers versus everyone else. Simple as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
What about you?
So, real quick, so who do you think would win against the Packers and I mean you're saying Chiefs, right?
Aaron.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you're gonna have
Granted, if they
like
go Packers versus Titans,
right. You think
that's a
that that's
different.
a
I
different
think the
matchup?
Titans
Yeah,
might be able to pull out a win.
I
The
think
Titans are
yeah, I
rough
think
and
it's a
nitty,
totally
and
different matchup.
Packers defense is
Yeah,
not that great.
yeah. I think the Chiefs and Green Bay plays very similar. Like they do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
you
High
know
scoring game.
yeah, obviously high scoring offenses plus a lot of deep passes and PYOs player options. So uh, I think that they're definitely more similar than Titans Green Bay would be. But yeah, those are great picks for sure. I mean, for me,
Titans' ability to slow the clock down honestly make
yeah,
them be able to make a game against anyone.
he's a veteran for a reason. But definitely, and Henry is Henry's a fucking monster. I mean, you can't lie. Like he's been balling out, but I think you can't lie when you say that we don't really know if we're gonna get 100% Henry. Like especially in the first game, especially in that first game, him coming back, I'm a little worried. Uh, I don't know what I'm getting from him. I know they're saying he's gonna be fine. They're saying he's gonna be a 95%. That's what they already said this week. But we'll see. Hopefully he is. I do want to see a guy like him play well in these playoffs. I mean, he deserves it. He almost had MVP mentions, up until he got injured. So he definitely deserves to play well. For me though, I think I'm going to keep my NFC pick. I had the Packers pretty much go all the way to the Super Bowl, and I think they've been playing the best all season. And I've stuck with them. And even though I've said for me, there's pretty much four really tough teams in the NFC for me is the Rams, the Packers, Tampa Bay, and the Cowboys. Those are my four tough teams in the NFC that I've been saying all year they're going to be the top four teams, and they pretty much are. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Besides the Bucks. No,
yeah,
Rams,
no,
Packers, Cowboys.
yep,
Yep.
those are top four, and I've been saying that all year. Those are going to be the top four, and they are. But for AFC, I obviously have to switch my pick. I mean, I pretty much told you why the Ravens kind of had their downfall, and I'm gonna be honest, in a different universe, in a multiverse somewhere, I do think that if Lamar Jackson would have stayed healthy this season, they would have had a pretty good shot, man. I mean, I think they would have definitely made it above Steelers. And would you want to play a Lamar Jackson in the wild card game? I don't know. I don't know. And they're definitely a tough out. But anyways, for me, I think that I had the Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. I am gonna put the Bills in there, and the reason is
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that they got a pretty decent matchup this week against a team like New England. And if I mean nobody knows what's gonna happen next, but I'm thinking they're gonna have to play pretty much. They're gonna be the lowest seed, so they will have to play, the number one seed Titans. And like I said, we don't know who or what Derrick Henry is going to bring in that first game. So I'm a little worried about them. So I do think that Bills have the best shot of their rankings, the way that the matchups are, to actually make it to at least the AFC Championships. I'm going to have Kansas City versus the Bills in the AFC Championship, and I believe that Kansas City would win that. So for me, it would be a Green Bay Kansas City Super Bowl, and I still believe that Green Bay would win that Super Bowl just because Aaron Rodgers has a lot more experience. Obviously, you got to give Patrick Mahomes a lot for what he's done this season, bringing Kansas City back. That whole team thought a lot of people thought they were done, but obviously they came back, had like 8 straight wins, and I just think that that would be a really good matchup for the NFL. Everyone will be excited for that type of matchup, a lot of offense, and I do think that Aaron Rodgers would win in that type of game, though. So it would be like Green Bay, Kansas City for me. I would switch my AFC pick from the Ravens to Kansas City.
No, definitely, obviously, two top choices. And obviously a lot of competitive top teams. So it's pretty much clear that in the oh no, I was gonna say top three, but Bills dropped in the rankings. So actually, man, it is what it is. Actually, no, Bills hop. Yeah. So basically, it's looking like top three. It's gonna win the Super Bowl from each one, and usually that's what happens. I mean, that's why they're top in their
Right.
conferences.
The
They're
conference.
good
Right.
teams.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll
I mean,
definitely see that.
it's
I'm
tough.
looking at a 1 versus 2 in both conferences for the
Right.
championship.
It's really tough to come in a wild card and win it all. I mean, you had teams like Pittsburgh Steelers that did back in the day, obviously, like 2010, I think it was, and I think the Giants did it against the Patriots that year that the Patriots had their undefeated
Well, that
season.
was different. You had 4 teams resting
So
instead of 2,
different now, exactly
and you
now.
had less teams. So
Less
coming in on a
teams.
wild card, I feel like coming in a wild card and winning don't mean as much now.
You know
It
what?
meant a lot more. When you had
Uh,
less teams and you had half of those teams resting.
I don't know. I don't. I think it's about the same because you're not really. It's still the same amount of games. You're still playing 3 games either way as a wild
Yeah,
card team. I mean, it's like what you're losing is
but like you said,
that
Bills got a
second seed
different
is that problem.
schedule. Like Bills, because of the way this playoff is set up, Bills probably like if you can do your positioning
Yeah,
right,
true. The
you
positioning
might
is
have
right.
an easy path depending on where you're at because now there's 7 teams with one resting,
But is
and then
that second seed is always the one that now is going to get fucked because
That's the one that
they
gets
don't get.
fucked.
It's not that
Exactly.
like yeah they got to play the seventh seed who's pretty much the one that's just kind of trying to get in there, but you never know with that seventh seed. They might
It
have.
works out better for the middle of the pack,
Yep.
and the
Yep.
people at the top and bottom still get screwed.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Definitely. So
Uh,
either way, we got to get there. We'll figure out how we get there. We'll see if our teams and our picks make it. So why don't we go over who's actually playing in the first round, and let's go over some predictions, see who we
let's
think is
do
coming
that.
out
Yeah.
and
I
who's
like that.
moving on, man. Who's going home? That's what we're here for. Who you
Love
got?
it. I love it.
Obviously, as we stated, Tennessee Titans, number one seed in the AFC, get a bye this week. Green Bay Packers, number one seed in the NFC, gets a bye this week. Only two buys. Other six teams on each side are playing each other. So
Yep.
let's just hop right into it. First game of the season, first game of the postseason, basically. Starting on Saturday, which is dope because they actually did the games pretty nice
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
They spread
They
it out
did.
a little
They
more.
got two games
Obviously,
Saturday,
six
two games
games.
Sunday, and then a game on Monday too now, which is crazy. I
I
think
like it.
two games on Monday. Yeah.
Maybe two games Monday, if not, then three on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it is three. It's three on Sunday. You're right, and then one game on Monday night. But
Yes,
first time they're having a playoff Monday night game as
on the
well.
Monday night.
And
Exactly.
that's
That's
going to
why
be interesting
it's
too
gonna be
because whoever wins that is only going to have probably 5 to 6 days of rest instead of
a
7 days.
rest.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be
So
interesting.
it's a lot going in. So Saturday starts off first game. We got Raiders versus Bengals. We spent a while talking about how Raiders basically had to squeeze their way into the playoffs, and because of the coach losing, I actually found a good ranking or a good positioning to be able to get what some would think would be a decent matchup against the Bengals.
Yeah.
On paper, these are two very close teams. Honestly, the Raiders probably got to be the second most inconsistent team I've seen this year. You never know what you're going to get from them week by week. The most inconsistent team I've seen is the Steelers, and right now both of them are in the playoffs. So they did something right. Bengals probably up there in top five when it comes to inconsistency. But at the end of the day, they kind of wrapped it up towards the end of the season, picked it up a little bit, and got a little bit more consistent. And it's because of
Right.
that explosive offense. That defense is just not what it's supposed to be. But they hang in their division games, and that's what kept them into not only the division title, but what kept them up there because they basically built the team to face those Steelers versus Browns versus Ravens. They basically
True.
built a hybrid defense for those type of games.
True. True.
So
You're right.
Bengals got home field advantage. I'll be honest, it might do more harm than good. That's
Mm,
a very young team. They
mm,
might be a little emotional at home. Their
mm.
first playoff game, and I don't even know what the date was. I forgot it honestly, but it was a long drought.
I think like they made it back in 2004, I believe, or no, before, after that. It was with Carson Palmer. I remember Carson Palmer days, 2006, I believe. There might have been a time that they made it after that, but I believe the last time might have been around like '06. I know that they have one of the toughest like droughts as far as winning a playoff game. Not getting in there, but just winning a playoff game. They have one of the biggest droughts
31 years in 1990 since they won.
since they won a playoff game, right? But I know they've been in there and in like, but I think it's been 15 years for them for sure. And I mean, it definitely doesn't look like the best matchup for them for sure. But I think I kind of got to disagree with you about their home field advantage. I think that's a big deal right there. One thing,
Yeah, yeah.
obviously, the Raiders they play in a dome stadium in Las Vegas where it's warm and sunny all the time, 67 degrees or probably 76 or something like that. What
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing right now in Cincinnati on Saturday is going to be in the tens, like with a wind chill. So I mean, it's that is the one thing that I think they have an advantage there. The cold actually gives them an advantage. They're used to playing, in that cold type of stadium. The Raiders are coming in from a warm weather, plus they're coming in from the west. So I think that that's a different disadvantage that they have. But I just do think that you got to look into that home field a little more. Plus, a lot of people say that Cincinnati, like that's one of the loudest stadiums with Kansas City. Those are like some of the loudest stadiums right there, Kansas City and Cincinnati.
So to me, it comes down to yes, it's going to be cold. Also, it's going to be it's going to be a gritty physical game,
Mm.
and it's
You think
hard hitting in these
the
hard weather.
Raiders
It's
or
hard hitting in these cold weather. Say that
where you
again.
think it would help, the Raiders or Cincinnati if it's cold, if it's colder?
Uh, Probably the Raiders, because since he like Joe, obviously they're explosive and got the seventh most not the seventh most, but the seventh passing offense
Right,
because Joe Burrow likes to throw it.
right.
So definitely the Raiders will probably benefit more in the cold, which like that's why. But
That's
like you said, they're not used to playing in that, so you might be right about that. That's something I did not factor in. So what did even take home field advantage might actually be back into the Bengals' favors.
I think so
Uh,
too. Like, I mean, I gotta give a little bit of credit to the Raiders. The last three games, I mean, I read this like a few days ago that my man Derek Carr has had to come back, and not just come back. He's had to win in the last possession of a game the last three times, and he's done that. So he's pretty much used to it. There's been playoff games for them, playing. Obviously, like they didn't really have to win last week. They could have tied, but they had to at least win or tie. So he did it, and obviously they've been doing it for the last 3 weeks. So I do think they're coming in hot. And if you look at the Bengals, they're honestly kind of coming in, mediocre. Like the last few games, they've been definitely up and down, up and down. Like yeah, they had that 150 spot recently, but they've definitely been up and down as far as like their defense, especially.
Hey, but the Raiders somewhat has been a little bit inconsistent in
For sure,
defense.
most season,
More with passing.
yeah, for sure.
So
Most season they
the
have it.
good thing about almost, like, I want to say almost all these matchups, or actually all these matchups, is all these teams played each other at least once this year.
Yes, they have, and
I'm pretty sure
Bengals
almost
beat
every single one. Yep,
for
and it was
sure.
a
Bengals beat Las
32-13 win,
Vegas 32-13. Yep,
and
and
that
that
was week 11.
but that was
Yeah,
a close game. I remember watching that game. It was a close game in the first half. In the first half, it was actually very
there are
close.
always close games in the first half.
True, but I mean, it was 10-10 is what I'm saying. And then after that, they literally came out and they started balling out. They started balling out. It,
And that's what the Bengals do,
sorry, it
and
was
I
ten to
think
six.
that's
It was
where
ten to
they
six.
end up this year.
In the
Oh, 10
first
to 6.
10-6 in the first half, and then the Bengals started just balling out after that. So
And that's why they're so explosive. I'll be honest, like before I even get into the straight details, definitely gonna say that I picked the Bengals to come out with this win.
mm,
The Raiders, basically, I think this is gonna be a red zone game.
mm,
Both of them have their strengths in the red zone. Raiders are good at defending in the red zone and not allowing you to get to the red zone. And obviously, Bengals are real good when it comes to passing in the red zone and
mm.
converting when it comes to being down at those end of the sticks. Uh, Basically, the Raiders' only chance is to really collapse that pocket and just try to go for a lot of sacks, which Joe Burrow, as much as they played good, Joe Burrow ended the year with 51 sacks. That was the most of the NFL this year.
Most of the NFL,
That
man,
line
and
is horrendous. That line, it looks like trash, and at that point, that's where the Raiders have to exploit their game. Keep Joe uncomfortable because if you allow him to get any sort of movement going, any sort of just a good arm, a good feeling going, he's basically gonna find his boy Jamar, find Higgins, find Boyd, and pretty much like I said, they got the seventh ranked passing offense, and that comes in seventh in points, seven in pass yards, seven in passing touchdowns, and honestly, they're six in just total touchdowns.
yeah,
So they're
their
very
offense is
electric,
hot.
very explosive,
Offense is
and
hot.
obviously, majority of that is because Jamar Chase, rookie, 1455 yards
Rookie of the year.
this
Let's just
season,
say it right now.
new record. The way Mac Jones fell down, clear rookie of the year now. Even finished fourth in total yards for receivers. 13 touchdowns was third, and 645 yards after catch was also third. The
Plus, he
man is in
broke.
his first year, and he's prolific.
Plus, he broke the record for most yards as a rookie. It was
1455.
yeah,
Man's prolific. Man's prolific. And right now, there's no one on that Raiders defense that can stop him this game. And that's what it comes down to. The Raiders are gonna try to make Joe uncomfortable. Uh, the Bengals are gonna they understand that they have to establish some sort of running game to get the pressure off of Joe, because once the pressure's off of Joe, Joe can get going and Joe can find Jamar. So basically, I think the Raiders, like you said, they've been doing a lot of good things. They've been winning games, playing tough teams to get tough wins. Hell of a game coming out that last week of the season. But I
A
think
game
that
that a
no
lot of people
stop.
thought they were going to lose too. A game that most people had Chargers winning that one. You know,
And honestly, that's because you had a. You, I mean, I wasn't even surprised that they didn't win because you got the inconsistent Chargers as well. That Chargers defense has been really bad all season. So and that's the thing, the Raiders barely won.
the
And
reason
the
I bring
Chargers
that up,
offense didn't even show up.
right?
So go ahead.
The reason I bring that up is just because the DNA of the Chargers is kind of similar to what the
The
Bengals is. I
Bengals,
mean,
yeah,
high powered offense with a decent running back. They can get you at least 4 yards of carry and a non-existent defense. At least not in the back six. As far as the cornerbacks and the safeties concerned.
definitely. Bengals got a better run defense, and I'll be honest, I'll choose Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert any day. Yeah, I don't. I'll be honest, I don't try to put too much towards a winning mentality. But Joe Burrow's not going to go out there and just fold, especially in his own stadium. My
Yeah,
man got the cigar sitting on that
he wants that.
top of the locker. He's
He wants
waiting. You
that.
know what I'm saying? So like, I think he's going to come out to play. Jamar is thirsty. He knows what he has to offer. I think the Bengals have very good coaching. And like I said, like it's a very good possibility. Like you said, the Raiders might come out and just win, man. They've been looking good. Derek Carr seems to kind of show up when he needs to in the last few weeks, which goes against his normal reputation, if you
Yes,
think about
true.
it.
Very true. Very true.
So they might come out and show up, but I think it's gonna be a 33-24 win for the Bengals, man. They're
Pretty
even
handily,
middle of
yeah.
the pack when it comes to offense and defense. And honestly, Raiders ended the season in the 20s and both sides of the ball. And I just don't I can't trust them. So
Got
I
you.
definitely
Got you.
got the Bengals and that high power offense led by rookie of the year Jamar Chase to beat the Raiders, man. First game of the playoffs, Raiders had a great run, but they out of here,
Mm.
out of here.
Some great points right there. For me, I think this game is definitely a little bit closer. I mean, I don't think it's going to be what happened earlier this
9 point
season.
game,
I don't think it's going to be a 32-13 game at all from what happened, like
right?
obviously earlier in the season. Um, like I said, like Derek Carr's, he's had to play tough games the last 3 games, and you're right, like that's not his DNA to come back from behind or to even like actually win the game when it's on the line. Like if you're tied and you have to win it on the last possession, it's not his DNA. That's something that's like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady type thing. And to see Derek Carr do it, it's definitely different. I don't really like the way that people are kind of portraying this Raiders team like they're the victim team coming in, like oh they lost their coach, they lost their wide receiver, and the 2 wide receivers, and all this stuff happened to them. Like I can't really look at the team like that just because a lot of this was brought on by themselves, so at least their own doing. So I,
Mm-hmm.
I can't look at them as that type of storyline. I just look at what they've been doing. I totally agree with you. They've been totally inconsistent the first 14 games of the season, but the last 3 games, if I'm looking at that, they're actually pretty hot right now. And I mean, I just think that they're definitely it's going to be tougher for them to play in a cold environment. I do think it's going to be a tough place for Derek Carr to throw in. I do think the better passer is definitely Joe Burrow in that situation. Even if it's cold and windy, Joe Burrow definitely is going to pass the ball way better. I expect Joe Burrow to get easily like 250 yards this game, even with the wind and the cold. But I just think that this game, with the weapons that the Raiders have, Darren Waller, they got Hunter Renfrow. They still got Josh Jacobs as a great running back, who's actually like the third best running back in the NFL. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
it, if you look at Derrick Henry, then you look at obviously Jonathan Taylor. Josh Jacobs has like the third most yards, I believe. So he's definitely up there as one of the top guys. Um, so they definitely have offense that's hot in the red zone. They got a guy in Edwards like 6'6", this wide receiver. He can catch great. Like he doesn't get that many receptions a game, and he doesn't even get that many targets. But he's definitely a guy that they're going to utilize. Like having a guy like Waller and a guy like Edwards on the other side, possibly to have in the red zone. I think this game is definitely going to come down to the front seven on each side. It's going to be whoever's going to get those sacks and whoever's going to get those turnovers. I think that if the Raiders are able to get a lot of sacks, I mean, you just stated it. Joe Burrow, 51 sacks this year, the most in the NFL, and that's not one thing he's good at. And the problem is he holds the ball too long. Sometimes he doesn't like to throw it away. And if guys like Carl Nassib try to get at him, Jonathan Abram, Raiders got in the front seven right there. Those are tough guys, and they can definitely get sacks. If they can actually get to him and get some turnovers, it might be a different game. I'm kind of with you in this one. I do think that the more powerful offense is going to win in this type of game, just because I do believe that the better passer is Joe Burrow. But I mean, I am
And
just
a better
stating.
running team too. Joe Mixon finished with 1,200 yards, third in the league.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, it's close as far as like who's a better running back, Josh Jacobs or Joe Mixon. I think that's a close one. I think that's a debatable question. But I
So
do
it
think this year
is.
he had a better year, but last year Josh Jacobs had a better year for sure. But it's a debatable question. They're pretty close to each other, I would say. It's not like
Now I'll
Derrick
be
Henry and
honest.
everyone else.
Josh Jacobs might be better, but the fact that Joe Mixon got 1,200 yards with that horrible ass line
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
honestly impressive to me because I didn't. I just looked it up when you said something, and I'll be honest, I would have never guessed Joe Mixon was in top 10 if you had to be serious.
Oh, they definitely. I mean, their offense has been on point, and the reason is that they're definitely getting the ball to Joe Mixon a lot of times. Like, I mean, they're getting him the ball like 30 times a game, sometimes 25 times a game. Because if you look at Joe Burrow's stats, he doesn't like throw like 30, 40 times like Tom Brady does. He throws like 20 to 25, but he'll still get you
Mm-hmm.
that 200, 250, even 300-yard game. Obviously, sometimes a 400-yard game where he had with Jamar Chase, where Jamar Chase broke that rookie record.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I agree with you that the more potent offense is going to win this game. I just think that it's going to be a lot closer. I got this game 28-24, and I just think that it's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and one of these teams is going to come back from behind. I won't be surprised if the Raiders win it, but I just do think that the more powerful team is the Bengals. But I really won't be surprised if the Raiders come out and win it. But I'm going with Bengals
No,
28-24.
that's how I feel. Honestly, besides the Steelers versus Chiefs matchup, I wouldn't really be
Mm,
surprised about the rest of them in the AFC. In the AFC,
right, right, right,
NFC different story.
right.
Actually, probably besides the Bucks versus Eagles, same thing. You wouldn't really be
Yeah,
surprised
that's
at
what I
who
was
walked
thinking.
on.
That was the
Yeah,
one I was thinking about. The Bucks Eagles, the only one that I'm
yeah.
kind of
Only
giving
so
it.
yeah. So all these other games are close on paper or close on matchups or both.
Yeah,
Or
matchup.
the division matchup. So either way, they're going to be close. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
That too.
definitely got a lot of that going on. And obviously, we're gonna hop right into the second game on Saturday, which I just explained. We have a couple of divisional
Division match.
matchups
Mm-hmm.
in this playoff first round, and I love it.
This is the one
We
you want to
have
see.
yes, this is the one I want to see because I want. There's a case for both teams right now, and I want the decision to be made. I want that third game to be decided, and I want that third game to be decided now because I think whoever wins this game has a good shot at going to the conference championship. Because
Mm.
Patriots is, yeah, the Bills are definitely the better team, but with that Patriots defense and their ability to run the ball with that coaching,
Oh yeah.
you can't count them out for anyone. So of course, if you haven't figured it out by now, because you're probably dumb, we're talking about Bills versus Patriots. Definitely a divisional matchup. Both both teams won a game this season.
Right.
Both different types of games.
Right.
14-10 win from New England in a snowy blizzard, where Matt Jones threw 2 to 3 throws.
He threw two throws. Two
Two throws
throws.
exactly,
That's it.
and they ran all over Buffalo. Buffalo couldn't get nothing going, and obviously 14-10 New England went. A few weeks later, they faced Buffalo with a better weather situation,
They
and it
played in
ended
New
up
England
being
that time. Yeah, better weather, and it came out to be
mhm,
33-21. Buffalo won. and a
Exactly.
pretty good offensive showing for Buffalo.
No, yeah. So a lot of people right now got them as a favorite, obviously because they got the division. They're a better team on offense.
Playing in
Um,
Buffalo this week.
and playing in Buffalo to home field. So right now, Buffalo's a favorite. But like I said, it's definitely so. To me, I'll be honest. The winner of this game isn't going to be Buffalo, and it isn't going to be Patriots. If you want to be honest,
Hmm.
the winner of this game is going to be the weather. As simple as that. The weather will decide who comes out with this win.
Yeah.
I don't. I promise you, I don't care about nothing else on how much snow was on that ground in Buffalo on Sunday morning or Saturday morning. That's all I care about. I'll look out the window.
Since you want to see that white
Yeah,
out there.
Buffalo not winning
Buffalo
today.
now winning.
Basically, if you don't know the story, if you don't know what the gist is, you should get it by now.
Buffalo run
Two
game
things.
is
Buffalo run game is horrendous.
problem. Yeah.
Josh Allen is their run game.
Yep.
If they have to do a game that's played in bad weather, that means it's going to be a low scoring game. Hard
And the
fought.
run defense.
And exactly.
Buffalo run defense.
If they have to play a low scoring game, they don't win. Buffalo don't win games if they don't score over 24.
Yeah, they have a
They
tough time
don't
winning
win.
those. You're right.
They have tough time. So
Yeah.
right now, if this is a low scoring game, which will be played in the snow, which will be Mac Jones' dream,
Hmm.
it's not looking too good for
I don't know if
Buffalo.
it's his dream because Bill Belichick's not going to let him throw, and I don't think his dream is for him not to throw.
His
Just like
dream is to
last
go out there and get past the
to
first
win
round.
for sure to win.
Hey,
But I mean,
even
if
if
you were
he,
if
hey,
you're a
he's gonna have
quarterback,
to throw eventually. But if your worry is just this week,
true
let's
that.
go in the
But if you're
snow.
a quarterback, you are not dreaming to have a two throw game. Bill Belichick to have you throw two throws and win the game. I
No,
mean,
I
if you're
hear
a
you.
quarterback, you're not dreaming about that.
Hey, but hey, that's his best case scenario. I
I
win
know
this game.
that's definitely
You
the best
know,
chance for
so
him to
that's
win.
what he would want. But one thing I love about this, and it's the most interesting thing to me, is we have the number one and the number two defenses facing each other.
Mm.
But the worst, or maybe best, I don't know, however you take it, the most interesting part is they're set up for the opposite of what they're facing. Bills defense is set up to stop the pass. They're facing a running team in the
They are.
Patriots.
They are a great running team.
Patriots defense is set up to stop the run. They're facing a throwing
That's
team in the Bills.
hmm
So that's why these games are hard to decide because you got the top two defense in the league, basically against offenses geared towards their weaknesses.
Yep.
And
Right.
that's where you come with divisional teams playing each other twice. It's always a chess game. But those both
True.
like basically not only are they ranked number one and two, I took the liberty of looking up the basically what their top three in both those defenses, and that's
Mm.
turnovers, interceptions,
Yep.
points, pass yards, pass attempts, completions, passing touchdowns, total touchdowns, and most importantly, top two in red zone
Red
attempts
zone.
and red zone touchdowns.
Yep.
Both of them are prolific when it gets down to that, and that's why you have games like that against them because it's not going to be easy to score.
Yep. Yep.
It's a
A lot of
saying
field
called
goals.
"bend
A lot of
don't
field
break,"
goals. hmm
and there's a lot of bending between these two teams, not a lot of breaking.
A lot of field
So
goals, not a lot of touchdowns. When they're getting in the red
exactly,
zone, especially when they're getting in the red zone.
exactly. So going into, and I'll be honest. So I have it definitely going to be snowing. Definitely, I already looked at that forecast. Not going to be a good weekend this
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah, yeah. I mean, not 100% sure about the snow. I know it's gonna be in the low numbers. It's gonna be like 8 degrees out there at night, but we're not
You're
sure
right.
about the
It
snow
might
yet.
not be snowing, right?
But it's definitely gonna be cold as shit out there. So
Cold as hell. So even with the cold, none of the receivers are completely unreliable because at this point, who steps up? Who do
mm,
they have? You know what I'm saying? Like Cole Beasley can't do everything, and honestly, he look like he's losing a step.
he definitely
Uh,
is. I mean, Diggs got to step up for sure, and then you got to have Devin Knox, the big boy, who's got to step up.
somebody else has to
hmm
be a factor in this game. So yes, Bills actually have a better team. Um, but if they can't throw the ball
mm
and is leaning towards that, I'm
mm
gonna have to give it to the Patriots. Not to mention, Bill said, man, he was not happy with that last loss against the Bills, and he 100% put that on his own shoulders. He said he got out coached,
I could see that. I mean, I could see him being
and Bill
pissed
ain't
about
gonna.
that. Yeah.
Bill felt like he got out coached. It wasn't that 32-21 loss wasn't oh man, they just came out here and scraped us. He thought that fell on his shoulders. So if that's what made y'all lose the second time, he's not. He's coming back with he's coming back with a vengeance. And like I said, if it leans towards a running game, I got it to a 20-17 win for the Patriots.
Wow.
Definitely three
Wow.
point game. Like I said, it really don't matter
You don't trust
whoever
the Bills at
wins,
all, man.
but I just don't trust the Bills. I don't trust the Bills because they were
I
supposed to
feel
be
you.
saying the number one seed right fucking now. They were only supposed to lose 2 to 3 games this whole fucking season.
I
I
mean,
don't trust the Bills.
yeah. If you remember, they were like what 7-0 at one point. Yeah.
I don't
6-0.
trust the Bills, man.
Yeah, they always do this when it gets colder and they start messing up, especially start playing these tougher games where it's lower
Hmm.
scoring, and you're right, they sometimes they really can't do it. For me, um, I think this game. Did you give your score yet? Real quick for the game.
Yeah, 2017.
2017. Okay, so you got a lower scoring game as well. I think I'm with you. I think it's gonna be a lower scoring game as well. For me, I got this a little bit different than you though. I do get a lot of your points, especially like the point about Bill Belichick and him thinking that he got out coached if he's gonna play a different game than he
Hmm.
did, especially when they played in what was it, week 16 when the Patriots lost. I think that what's going to have to happen is this is going to have to be a throwing game. What I loved seeing 2 weeks ago from Josh Allen, the Bills played the Jets 2 weeks ago, and I know it's the Jets, yeah, but they're playing a team that I'm sorry, I said the Jets, I meant the Falcons. Excuse me, the Falcons. They just played the Jets. The Falcons they played 2 weeks ago in Buffalo. That day it was really cold. It was like 2 degrees out there. It wasn't really snowing, but it was starting to snow in the second half. But it was very windy. It was like 15-mile-an-hour wind. But this is what I loved seeing from that game against the Falcons. My man Josh Allen was throwing the ball all over in the wind, and it actually looked good. Like his ball looked really good. He was throwing it like hard, really good bullet passes. He had a few deep balls, and he had a pretty good, decent game. He went out there. He had an interception or two, but he still had a decent game out there. And I gotta
No,
say
he didn't.
he plays pretty good in the win.
Yo, I hate to break it to you, because I remember as soon as you said that 2 weeks ago, I remember thinking Josh Allen played horrible the last 2 weeks of the season. I
You know
literally
what,
looked
my
it
bad. I
up.
was
He
thinking
threw
about
for a
that. I
hundred
was
and
I was thinking about that
the
the
game
last week of the
before
season.
that.
No, I'm sorry. No, it was the Jets game. This past
Oh
week.
yeah, he threw for 239 and
Sorry,
two
it
touchdowns.
was this past week of the season against the Jets. It was like 2 degrees out there. That's what it was. Yep, you're right again. It
But
wasn't
the
against
game
Atlanta.
before that, he threw for 120 yards and 3 picks.
Right.
That's
It
why I
was
don't
the
trust
Atlanta
fucking
game
Josh
because
Allen.
that was a more defensive game for them. That's right, against Atlanta. It was the Jets game where it was a windy game just this past week, and he was
And
still
you're
playing
right,
to win.
24 for 45 for 239 and two TDs. So he
Yeah,
was throwing a lot.
his completion wasn't there, but percentage wasn't there. But he was throwing into the wind, I remember, and he was throwing some bullet passes when it was. They were
45
saying it
attempts.
was like, hey, they were saying it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds, and I think that this week is going to be windy. It might not be snowy, but this game comes down for me. This Patriots and Bills game comes down to Mac Jones versus Josh Allen. I know everyone is saying like, yeah, the Patriots running game is going to have to, ball out. Obviously, everyone pretty much balls out on the Buffalo running defense. If you look at like everyone from Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and on, and obviously even the Patriots. Both times the Patriots played them, they had over 100 yards rushing from both games that they played against the Bills. So that is one thing that the Bills are not going to be able to stop. I think that they're going to get rushed on. But the way that they're going to have to get beat for me is by Mac Jones scoring in the red zone, really. And that's what I think that the Patriots are going to have a problem scoring in the red zone. I think that this game is going to be close for that reason. I think, like you, it's going to be very close. But I got this game 17-14. I think the Bills are going to come back late, try to win it in a field goal in a late fashion. I think it's going to be similar to that first game that they played, but it's just going to have to be like some of those throws that on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6, Allen's going to have to make throws. They're not going to have to run the ball and just punt it because that's what they were doing a lot in that first Patriots game.
Hmm.
Whenever it was like 3rd and 8, it was too snowy, so they couldn't even try to attempt to pass. They were just running it and then punting it, try to play for possession. This time they're going to have to actually play to try to win or at least get some field goals. Um, I think that this game, like I said, it's going to be close, but one quarterback or the other is going to have to make at least one or two good plays. Because it's cold, I only give each quarterback around one touchdown each passing. So uh, I think that the guy that gets that two touchdowns is pretty much going to win the game. And for me, it might be Josh Allen. He might get maybe one rushing and one passing for me, and then that other field goal that I'm talking about, and that's how they're going to win. I do think that the tough thing about the Patriots, though, that you were saying, is that the pass defense is what's going to happen there. Are they going to allow a lot of yards in the passing defense? We'll see with this cold, but I got this a closer game and a colder game, so I don't think it's going to matter as much. I do think that what's going to have to happen is a few key plays are going to have to happen, and that's the way Buffalo's going to have to win this game, is to have a few key plays.
No, for sure, and I hear you 100%. And obviously, just to go to your point with the first game, where Mac only threw two passes, Josh Allen threw 30, and
Right.
still
Still only scored 10 points.
15, made 15 of them.
Oh, made 15, but they only still scored only 10
Yeah,
points, right? So, but
right. So he
even
still completed 15 out of 30 passes on a
it's
day
not
where most quarterbacks wouldn't be able to throw.
true. So he
So he
throws it in
has an
that.
extremely strong arm.
Yeah, he throws it in that cold.
Extremely strong
Throws it
arm.
in the cold.
So
That's
yeah,
what
so he does have a better shot at doing anything with that arm for sure.
I do think that the three-headed monster right here is definitely going to make a difference. I think that right now the best option for the Patriots is probably do similar to what they did in that last game and have Mac probably throw around 10 to 15 passes and run it like 30 to 40 times. But this time, I just think the Bills kind of figured that game plan out, and I feel like they're just going to make a few more key throws and keep plays and win it.
No, I definitely hear that 100%, and it's another game. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised that whichever one walks away is definitely one.
I
I'll
agree
be
with you
honest. When I
100%.
look when I look back at the picks that I made this week, I can 100% let you know I chose with a lot of bias this week.
Mm,
I can
yeah.
let you know that because
I try. Yeah, I don't
there's
think I
close
did.
teams. Well, it's not like a lot of bias, but anytime there was a close
I might
matchup,
have. I might have.
I want a little bias. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right,
Like there's this is one of three that people will probably choose the other one,
right.
but I'm choosing a team that I've been liking most of the season,
Right.
and I've been liking the Patriots
Patriots.
against the
Yeah,
Bills most of the season.
I got you.
And I was asking for this matchup second game. The Bills won, so now I'm asking for it again, and I'm hoping the Patriots come out with this one. So we'll definitely see. Either way, first two games on Saturday should be very close matchups. Two teams that at the end of the day, no one really knows what's going to happen. But it'll be not
Honestly,
a
a tough play
surprise
for
for whichever
anybody. Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Exactly, definitely tough pick.
Tough
Um,
play for anybody. Whoever wins that game, whoever they play next is going to be a tough matchup for them. There's, it's crazy they get to play each other now. Obviously, a third time. It doesn't really happen that many times in the NFL where you get to play a team your third time because
mhm.
obviously it's not always that guys from your division always make it, but it's always interesting and it's cool that this year we got two of those happening.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So those two competitive tough games on Saturday, and now let's kick it off with the three games on Sunday. First one that starts off is one of two games that pretty much should be a shoe in that day, which is Eagles versus Bucks. Like we say, Eagles versus Bucks and Steelers versus Chiefs seem to be the only two games that we kind of feel like the favorites are clear favorites.
Yeah, pretty clear.
So this one shouldn't be much to write about. Obviously, if I said the favorites are favorites, I'm gonna go with a 30-20 win for the Bucks. I mean, Brady led the freaking league in yards this year. He
Yes,
did
there you
start
go.
off
Yep. Hmm.
too hot, but your man clearly still an MVP candidate. Literally playing at a prolific level at his age, and it makes absolutely no sense. Pretty much the Bucks are getting some pieces back, but they are a little banged up. So honestly, Obviously, best case scenario should have been that bye, but if they couldn't get it,
Yeah,
moving up to second, it's a real good option because facing the Eagles is the best option of
I
anyone
agree.
else in the playoffs.
I agree. They definitely got the
Um,
best matchup out of
exactly.
honestly
So
anybody in the
even
yeah.
anyway, yeah, no, Eagles are definitely Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers, but Steelers still have a top 10 defense. Was where is the Eagles? We can't really say that about them. You know,
You're right.
Steelers
So
still good on defense. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. So basically, Eagles should some like this can go one of two ways. Like, and both of them will end up in a Bucks win. It can be a close game for the first three quarters, and then fourth quarter, Tom Brady let loose like he usually does, or they could be up by 20 by half.
right.
Either way, it's gonna end in a Bucks win for sure. I
Mhm.
mean, come on, they still got Fournette, they still got Evans, they still got your boy Gronk. They still got
They're
certain
saying
weapons. But
yeah.
like I said,
I think Fournette should come back this game, right?
Fournette is coming back,
Nice,
and
nice.
that's what makes it a for sure win.
Mm.
Being able to have a running back that can take that pressure off of Tom and off of Evans and Gronk down the middle, and then obviously you got one of the best quarterbacks of all time to pretty much lead you in that fourth quarter when you need to make plays happen. So at that point, you can't go wrong.
Oh,
Bucks defense is also basically you got the top run defense
yeah,
versus the top running team.
team, yeah. Hmm.
Eagles didn't have a real clear running back this year. They tried a committee, and it was the best three-person committee uh, in the NFL this year.
I
There
would
was
say
just a
four
lot of
plus Jamal plus Hurts
plus. Yeah, exactly.
plus
So
yards. Yeah.
all the Eagles as a whole was the best rushing team
Right.
in the league this year, and the Bucks as a whole was the best rushing defense in the league this year. So that's not a recipe for success for the Eagles because that means that you have to get Jalen Hurts going for your team to be successful, and like it's best option is to get Jalen Hurts going because that's where the
Yeah.
Bucks are the weakest
Exactly.
is in that secondary. So that is your best option, and that's probably your only chance to win that game. But at the end of the day, they didn't become the top rushing offense in the league for fun. They have no choice but to
True.
establish a run to get their offense going. And if they can't do that,
Right.
you're not winning the game against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Like I said, it's clear Tom Brady's having a MVP season. Obviously, Bucks are their defense is top three uh, in points, plays, yards, passing yards, attempts, passing
Yeah.
touchdowns,
They're pretty good
red
all
zone
over.
touchdowns. And no, actually, that's not their defense. That's
That's
their
their
offense.
offense. Yeah, that's their
That's their
offense.
offense because they have basically the number one offense
Number
in
one
the
offense.
league
Yeah.
with Tom
With
Brady.
Brady.
So they are basically on offense top three in points, play yards, pass yards, attempts, completion, pass touchdowns, red zone
And
touchdowns.
red
And
zone.
here's the best part: top in first down conversions and third down conversions. To let you know Tom Brady does what he needs to do when he needs to
Third
do
down.
it.
Yeah.
They're not beating that team first round from the Eagles. I'm sorry. I don't care how many injuries they have. Even with all those injuries, they won 7 out of the last 8. The
Right.
Bucks are still winning this game. Simple as that. And I got this. The Bucks won week 6, 28-22. People were banged up, but I got this a 30-20 win first round in the freaking playoffs. And I'm hoping the Bucks get a little bit more healthy with a little bit more time because I do want to see them make a good run.
Yeah.
I used to
No.
hate Tom Brady, but I
You
wouldn't be mad if he wins another ring this year.
still gotta respect him, even though you hate him. I
Mm-hmm.
hate him, and I still respect him a little bit. Because I'm a Rams fan. He beat my Rams all the way from 2001
Hate that
to
man.
2018. So,
Mm-hmm.
what can I say? But anyways, I love the points that you made. Great points that you made. I can't really add too much. I mean, definitely want to see what happens with Fournette in this game. I do wonder, him coming back. He's a big piece for this
He's a
Bucks
big
team.
piece.
He's been playing amazing this year, and I really want to see him finish out this season because I think he's definitely a big key for their success in the to get to a Super Bowl this year. I definitely agree with you that the Bucks defense, their front four, their rush defense is one of the best in the league. I mean, they got JPP out there, Gerald McCoy. It's gonna be kind of tough uh, for the Eagles to really like start and
Mm-hmm.
start out hot running the ball when you got a tough defense like that. And it might be even tougher when you got a guy like Tom Brady that I think that they're going to start out really hot in this game. If they start out
Mhm.
14 zip, 7 zip, 14 zip, then it's going to be even tougher for the Eagles to start to run the ball because, they're going to be playing from behind. And the one thing Eagles don't do this year is play from behind. They never play good from behind. Jalen Hurts has a problem with that. And I definitely think that this is the type of game that the Tampa Bay could take advantage of that. They should take a blueprint of what happened last week with Dallas. If you saw, it was kind of close first quarter, but then
Mhm.
Dallas they came out and they just started throwing deep, and the Eagles secondary they just couldn't keep up with guys like C.D. Lamb, and I do think that C.D. Lamb is very similar to Evans. He's very big and he can run really fast. He's
Mhm.
Evans is around like 6'3", and C.D. Lamb's like a little bit bigger, maybe 6'4", a little bit slimmer than Evans, but they definitely play like very similar style. And I do think that a guy like Godwin is definitely a guy like and Gallup and Godwin are very very similar as well. So you can definitely see similarities in that Tampa Bay offense and the Dallas offense. So if they just take a blueprint of what Dallas did to the Eagles last week and they just pretty much put that in and they utilize that, uh, I don't think it's going to be pretty close in the first half. I think that they're going to come out hot, Tampa Bay that is, and
Mhm.
I'm with you. I think this game is pretty much it's almost set in stone. I mean, you can't call a game 100%, but I think this is
Right.
99% set in stone that Tampa Bay is going to win this, barring some crazy injury, you know, something crazy happening. I think that they're just going to come out hot. I don't think that the Eagles are going to have enough offense to come back. They're going to try to pass from behind, and I don't think they have the weapons to do that. I think they have the running backs to do that, but they don't have the offensive firepower as well as far as like tight ends and wide receivers to do it. So I think this is going to be a pretty handled game, and I actually got this pretty big win by the Bucks, man. I got
Bigger than that.
38-18. I got this a 20-point game. Yeah.
Jeez, you got them boys running or throwing all over them, huh?
Yeah, I think that Tom Brady's gonna want, especially if Fournette is back. I think that he's gonna get a few touchdowns. I think, Tom Brady's gonna want to just show that he's still,
Throw early.
yeah, throw
Definitely
early.
gonna get some runs in.
Yeah, exactly. Get that big lead, and then pretty much did what the Cowboys did. And I mean, the Cowboys ran up the score on them, but I can definitely see it happening you know, to them again.
I know, I definitely agree. So that's just said that's one of two matchups, which is basically the number twos versus number sevens,
Right.
which seems to be pretty much set in stone for the two seed to win. And then 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all hella competitive, basically.
True that.
Um, which brings us to the next game on Saturday, our next game on Sunday,
All right, so that's
second of
our
February.
AFC, right? And
Now this is
oh, sorry,
still in the NFC. The last one's the
excuse me.
AFC.
The last one's AFC. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
You're right. That
this
last Sunday
one's
night. You're right.
basically the probably the toughest
You're right.
matchup on paper when it comes to this playoffs first round. Right now, I looked it up too. They are the only two teams top 10 in both offense and defense playing each other.
Right. Yep.
Literally top
Yep.
notch offenses and defense. So I personally, like I said, those three matchups that I picked with the bias, even though they were very, very close. Patriots was one of them. I picked with the bias. Um, this is another one. As close as they are, I have to go with the team that I've been warning y'all about all season. I've been saying all season the Cowboys are serious. I don't care how inconsistent they are. They're not even bottom 10 when it comes to inconsistent teams.
Mm.
Not even bottom 3 when it comes to inconsistent teams playing in this round right now. Everyone besides the Packers basically have been inconsistent this year. So I understand everyone
Yeah.
keeps talking jump, but we're talking about uh, number 5 ranked offense with number 7th ranked defense. First in points on both sides of the ball. I spent mad long talking about them last week as my sleeper team,
Mm-hmm.
and I have faith in them. This
Mm-hmm.
will be a very, very tough game. And like you said, it could have got to the point where they probably were better off facing the Cardinals at this point.
Right.
Because basically, well, let's talk about what the Cowboys come to offer. I mean, you got Dak, comeback player of the year candidate, pretty much sure to win. Career high in touchdowns, finished the league third in the league in touchdowns. Like he found a way to throw it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Great receiving core, found a way to use them. Play call was good, even though a lot of people was wondering why Z took such a step back, and they implemented Pod a little bit. At the end of the day, Zeke finished with over 200 attempts and 1,000 yards. There's
Pretty
a
good.
hell.
It's pretty good
No,
for a
I
off
was just about to say
for a off
exactly
year.
for a
That's pretty.
bad year.
Yeah.
That's a good year. So don't still sleep on him. Like I said last year, right off a couple games, he had like a 140. You know what I'm saying? He still has it in him. And obviously, prolific defense was top three in points, interceptions, turnovers, top five in red zone attempts, red zone touchdowns, and third down conversions.
Mm-hmm.
They're going against now that team is set up to stop the pass.
Yep. That's what I was
They're
gonna
going
say
up against
too.
a team
That's
that's set up
one
to
of the.
run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another one for the
The best
matchup.
running team, I think, right in the NFL,
Yes, 100% best. Oh no,
right? Or no, second.
third.
Oh, are they third? Okay, yeah. Because I know they have one of the best Russian attacks in the NFL. Obviously, they got two guys that can run over there in San Francisco, and I definitely think that they're top three. I'm like 90% sure that they're top three.
Well, you know me, I'm always pulling up right now.
Because I know
They're
their offense
five.
is top 10. They're five,
Their offense is 10. So they're basically when it comes
but
to
I know their
rushing,
passing is not there.
top seven in yards on defense or on offense. Are we talking about offense, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
rushing yards.
offense. Top seven in yards, top five in rush attempts, and top five in rushing touchdowns, which
Okay,
averages them at five.
right. So that fits. So
So
that's
still
pretty
top
great.
five.
Pretty great.
But here's the kicker: they're still the third most stingiest
Mm,
on defense.
defense, right.
Like I said, these are both matchups now. They fall in top 10 and top 9, basically right above 10 on both sides of the ball. So I said only matchup where both of them are 10 or higher on both sides of the ball. They might have the ninth ranked defense, but they give up the least amount of yards. They're very, very stingy.
And as the
So right
49ers,
now, it's
correct?
the 49ers, yes. So they got a great running team on offense, a great run defense. So that's obviously like to me, the Cowboys, Zeke has to show up. Zeke
Mm.
has to show. I'll be honest, I'm not questioning whether or not Dak has to show up. He's gonna show up.
Oh,
My man just threw for 5 touchdowns.
I know he
He
did,
was
but for me,
he
this
has
game
been
is the opposite. Yeah, I think
well that's
Dak's
the
gonna have to
thing.
show up.
The Dak does have to go off from the win, but Zeke needs to help. That's my point. Dak needs to go off, but there's not really a case where he doesn't go off for me. You know what I mean? Like I promise
Yeah,
you, you're not gonna get less than 300 yards for Zach from Dak Prescott this game. You're
yeah,
not.
I think I agree with you. I mean, he's been balling out all season. I
He-
mean,
he- They
as far as
they have
yards.
been specifically working on executing the last couple of weeks, and while their offense isn't perfect, they have been specifically molding that offense for this playoff run and making sure that they are as well oiled as possible. And that's going to start with that. For me, this comes into pretty much uh, 49ers run defense versus Cowboys run offense. That's where it's
Mm.
going to make it because 49ers is, like I said, the 49ers, or like I said, the Cowboys are set to do good things in the red zone. But just like the story we have a lot, the 49ers defense is also very great when it comes to third down conversions and red zone matchups as well. So
Right.
it seems like this is like that. This isn't just why the matchup is so good, but they're built in so many good ways to match up against each other. It's going to be an absolute chess match when it comes to that 20 and under.
Mm.
Basically, and that's when Jimmy's gonna have to shine. That's
Yeah.
another. So I say Dak has to show up for the Cowboys. Jimmy has to show up for the 49ers, and that's where he has to show hey, they can run the ball, run it down your throat to get you to the red zone. Jimmy has to execute in that red zone to actually do what he needs to do. But either way, I don't care. I do care. I want the Cowboys to win. I wouldn't be surprised at anyone who wins this game. I got it a 3-point game. And like I said, just because the Cowboys are
Close game.
just a
Yeah.
little bit better on both sides of the ball, I'm gonna give it to them.
Mm,
Obviously, home
right.
field advantage as well.
Right. For the
No one likes
Cowboys.
playing, no one
Right.
likes playing in Texas. So I'll give it to the Cowboys, but it's a 26-23 win. It's going to be a very close game, and I'll be honest, this is probably besides Rams versus Cardinal, this is probably going to be my best game to see this week.
Most interesting, yeah.
Most interesting game
I
for
think I
sure.
definitely agree with you there. But I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't agree with a
Mm.
lot of the points that you made. A lot of the
Mm.
points you made. I do think that you definitely made some great points about the Cowboys uh, run offense and as well as the 49ers whole defense. Like that was great. You're definitely on point, 100% on that. Here's where I tend to disagree a little bit. Now, I mean, the 49ers are known for their rush defense. They're known for that. And if they're able to stop, which most people think that they should be able to stop Ezekiel Elliott, because, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott got 1,000 yards, but he hasn't been playing that great. He's got like a 3.7 yard per carry average, which is not nothing to talk home about. I mean, Tony Pollard, most people would say, is playing better than Zeke, even though Zeke has the better stats. Uh, yeah, together they have like a great rushing attack. But if you're looking at them individually, I think Tony Pollard is a better player as of right now. As I mean, if you're looking at the amount of plays that they're getting each, I think that obviously Zeke is getting more attempts than Tony Pollard. But the attempts that Tony Pollard is getting, there's some games where Tony Pollard's had like 10 attempts and he had like 60 yards, where Zeke had like 15 attempts for 30 yards. And I'm like, damn, get Tony the ball a little bit more, and we'll see what he can do. Obviously, Zeke is the guy right now because he's getting paid $80 million a year, so they have to give him the ball. They have to keep him there. But here's where my issue is: the Cowboys. Um, this is during this season. The playoff teams that are in right now. This is the Cowboys' record against playoff teams that are in right now: 3-4. They won 3 and they lost 4, and 2 of those wins are against Philadelphia. So, and the other one is against New England. But they pretty much they lost against a lot of playoff teams. The Raiders, the Chiefs. They lost to the Bucks, and they lost to the Cardinals. And actually, if you count the preseason, they lost to the Steelers too. So, uh, you can kind of count that. You can't really count the preseason, but uh, just even those 4 teams that they lost to, it's not like they're top teams in the AFC or NFC. So if they're losing to these type of teams, then I mean, I don't know.
I
They
mean,
got the
they are,
toughest team.
besides the Raiders, they are losing the top teams, basically.
I mean, if you're looking at like the Chiefs, they really haven't played like the Green Bay or the Titans. I'm looking at just like the top teams in the AFC, NFC. But if you're looking at like the Bucks, they lost to the Bucks. That's pretty much a top team, and the Chiefs is a top team. And I guess
They
you could
lost to the
say,
number 2 seeds.
yeah. So I
And
mean,
they lost to the
those are definitely
Cardinals, which is still, no matter what seeding they are, they're still,
right.
most people still got them going far. So,
True, true. They weren't they weren't the
and for
favorite
me,
there though.
49ers ain't
The
neither one
Cowboys
of
were
those
the favorite.
teams.
The Cowboys definitely were the favorite in that Arizona game. And that's where that takes me. Is like the Cowboys have been playing great this season against mediocre teams, but when it comes to that like good competition, it's been tough, and they had some tough games, and that's where I go back to like this is the toughest matchup out of all. Like I think every single matchup, even if I happen to look at like the Rams and Arizona matchup, which we'll talk about later. If I look at every single matchup in this wild card weekend, I think that this is the toughest matchup, especially because I think the Cowboys got fucked. This is a team that's coming in hot. They got like I said, they got a top 10 offense and top 10 defense. Great running attack. Uh, and right now, Jimmy Garoppolo, if we're looking at him, yeah, if he's healthy, then he can actually throw the ball and he can throw it decently. They got a great weapons on offense. They got Kittle out there. They still got Ayuk, and of course they got Debo Samuel, who's been balling out, Debo people, literally. And I mean, honestly, you definitely got to look at that offense, and that's something you got to be worried about. On the other side, like I said, the San Francisco defense, their run defense is really well, so I do think they're going to be able to stop the Cowboys' run attack. So that's where my thing goes to. I think that this game is gonna literally come down to Dak and Garoppolo. It's gonna be between those two guys. Who's gonna be able to make those plays? Is Dak gonna be able to throw a 300-yard game and win it, where the running backs maybe get him only like 60 yards? I do think that he has the capabilities to win those games. He hasn't shown it against the top teams this year, so it's going to be interesting to see him do it against a team that's got a top 10 defense now. For me, I just think this game is going to be a lot closer, especially seeing what the 49ers did last week, seeing how they played against an offense like ours, playing the two deep safeties and holding their two corners at man, letting Cooper Cup play man, and same with Odell Beckham. I think that they're going to do the same thing with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. They're going to stay in man. They're going to have two deep safeties and make sure they don't get beat over the top. And I think that Dak's going to have to try to beat him up the middle, have like Gallup, actually Gallup is out, so they're going to have like somebody else go down the middle for the Cowboys.
Schultz.
And Schultz, yep. They're gonna have to have Schultz and also that the other guy, number 11. I forgot who it was. I think Winthrow. It was Winthrow or Winthrop. Sorry, Winthrop. And that guy might have to get some possessions in the middle, but I think this game is going to be tough for Dallas just because the matchups. And for me, I think definitely Garoppolo is going to have to play a perfect game if he wants to win this because Dallas can score points. And that's not something that 49ers necessarily do very well. They don't score that many points. But I think that if they're able to keep this in the low 30s, then they can win this game. And that's why I'm making the crazy pick that I don't think many people are going to make. I'm picking the 49ers to beat Dallas in the wild card game. This is my first upset that I'm picking this whole wild card. I think they got this. I think this is a really tough matchup for Dallas, and I got this a 31-30 game. It's going to be very close. Comes down to the last possession. Both are going to score.
So surprisingly, a lot of people are still sleeping on the Cowboys, even though
I don't
technically
think I'm
they're
sleeping
the.
on them. I don't think I'm sleeping on them because I think that if they would have played anybody else, if they would have played Arizona, they would have won. If they would have played the Eagles, they would have easily won. If they would have played, honestly, even maybe the Rams, the way that we're playing right now, they probably would have won.
Yeah, a
Just
lot of people
the
got the
fact,
Cowboys losing this first game against the 49ers.
yeah, that's
For a lot of reasons you said about the 49ers, but for me, I got to trust the better team. But one thing
here's
I
the
do
thing
got to
though.
say, though, 49ers definitely, that's why I think it comes down to the run because they got to really establish that run game because right now, Cowboys' biggest Achilles heel on defense is their run, man. They got the best pass defense. I don't think Jimmy's gonna have that good of a game,
I mean,
which is why I
you're
think they
right.
need to
Well,
establish the run because the Cowboys really gave up 100 plus yards in at least 11 out of 12 of their last games.
here's the thing about the Cowboys' pass defense. So they have the best cornerback in the league in Trayvon Diggs. Yes, obviously 11 interceptions probably should be a candidate
They got
for.
the best secondary in the league.
No, here's the thing though. Anthony Brown is probably one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. If you're looking at a third cornerback, Anthony Brown, that's who everyone goes against. If you notice, like all the games that the Cowboys lost that were big when there was 3 games that they had 3 pass interference penalties in each game, and those 3 penalties were pretty much from that side where Anthony Brown was playing. And if you're looking at the one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL, I mean, it's got to be him. So you got like one guy on one side that's amazing, but on the other side, it worries me if a guy like Brandon Ayuk is going to be able to get, you know, open and he's going to get a lot of yards on Anthony Brown. I do think that Debo on Trayvon Diggs is going to be a great matchup, and I think Trayvon probably has that matchup.
No, so I did some research in regards to that because a lot of people were saying that about Trayvon Diggs, and I'll be honest. When it comes to stats, yeah, obviously team stats are something. But when it comes to individual stats, Anthony Brown is a top 20 to 40 cornerback in the league overall. And I say top 20 to 40 because I can't remember if because
That's
when it comes
that's
to cornerback,
I
saying you're
agree,
top
bro.
40 isn't that low.
That's
When it comes to
as
certain
a
stats,
second quarterback though. I
saying
mean, second cornerback, you
saying
don't
you're
want to be
top
top 40
40.
though.
So saying no, so the reason why I think he was top 20, but I think he was top 40 in interceptions. But at that point, everyone between 21 to 29 had three.
Anthony Brown he definitely has like 6, I believe, this year. Because I remember the
So
Cowboys
like
had like
he
11 and 6.
wasn't,
But if you're looking at the most penalties
but he got a
this
lot of.
year,
So the
he's got
penalties is
the
different
most
because
penalties in this year.
penalties penalties is a different stat because when it comes to pass deflections, interceptions, and coverage, he is not nowhere near the worst cornerback in the league.
Yeah, I mean, as far I don't even think he has 6 interceptions. I think I was wrong, but I think he has 3 actually.
No,
But
I think he has three.
yeah, he has 3 interceptions. But I think he a lot more pass deflects. But if you're looking at like just those penalties. I remember there was one game where they played against. It was just a recent game. They had it was a close game too. It was the Saints that they played, and no, I'm sorry, It was the Raiders. It was the Raiders. It was against the Raiders because I remember Hunter Renfrow had like 150 yards that game, and that was the game that Anthony Brown had like 3 pass interference calls that cost him the game there, and they were like big ones too. Like one was for 40 yards, the other one was like for 30. It was that game against the Raiders. It was like week 13, 14, and they're playing a similar team with those type of weapons. Like you got a guy like look at the weapons in the Raiders compared to the weapons on the 49ers. You got Darren Waller for the Raiders, where you got Kittle for 49ers, you got Renfro for Raiders, and you got obviously Debo Samuel for 49ers, and they're very similar type of weapons. So I definitely think that if Anthony Brown doesn't play it right, he could definitely get called on some of those.
I looked it up. You're right. He doesn't have that many. Only have five penalties, but they all came out to 96 yards, which is still top like 7 in the league for personal penalty yards.
For personal, okay,
So
but if you look at
yeah, so he
them as a
does.
whole
He
though,
does. Who was a whole?
the Cowboys
Cowboys?
as a whole too,
Oh
they're
no, no,
definitely bottom half,
no. They no. As a whole, the Cowboys caused the most penalties.
most penalties. Really,
Yes. Oh yeah. I remember that was one of their issues. Like right now,
I remember that was in
their
the middle of the
their
season. Yeah. Hmm.
offensive guard is the top of that list with 130 yards.
Whew.
So that's literally 200 yards in penalties from just two players.
See, so that's another thing that we definitely gonna have to look at in this game. I mean, it's gonna be interesting because the type of weapons that the 49ers have, they like to hold. I mean, look at Kittle. He's a big guy. He likes to hold off the line, and then he likes to push up and get that opening. A guy like Debo Samuel, he's a guy that likes to get a little more separation. But Ayuk, he goes down the middle, and he definitely gets those push offs too. So if it's gonna be a more physical game, it's gonna be interesting who gets that. You know, especially that positioning.
No, for sure, for sure. So either way, like it's gonna be a tough matchup. They each have strengths that they have to use. Definitely gonna be a chess match when it comes to the coaching. I think it's gonna be a well coached game, but it's gonna come down to who makes the most costly mistakes.
Mm, true. That's what I agree with you. I think that Dak is definitely for me. Dak's gonna have to step up because I don't think that the Dallas running game is gonna do much difference, and I think that it's gonna be a game between Dak and Garoppolo. And honestly, whoever makes more plays at the end is gonna win the game.
Hey, I think your boy Debo might have a fantastic running game. I think they might try to get some more out of him when it comes to the run. So we'll see.
Mm.
Um, but obviously, that's second game of Sunday. We got two more games left. Luckily, one of them, like we said, is pretty much another gonna be blowout.
Right.
2 versus 7 in the AFC. The last game on Sunday. Steelers versus Chiefs. Steelers barely got it in. Chiefs have the number 2 ranked offense with prolific passing with Mahomes. And the real story is their number 8th ranked defense that
Defense. Yeah.
turned it around this year. Basically came alive.
Yeah. Halfway during
Uh,
the season, I remember that. Like, no, everyone was saying like they don't got no defense. They don't got no defense, and I was saying
Basically,
like,
their defense was always last, and they came out looking worse than
yeah,
before beginning of this year. So a lot of people were basically saying like, yeah, they don't have defense. So you're
yeah.
right about that, and I was one of them.
I remember saying like in the middle of the season, I was like, if they could just help their defense just a little bit, this team is actually good. Like their offense is really good, but their defense wasn't good in the beginning of the season. That's why they were so like bad or inconsistent, I guess. And once they stepped it up on their defense, obviously you saw
I mean, yeah,
they got hot.
when you got the worst defense in the league and you got your quarterback and the number one offense in the league not playing the way it should be, then at that point, where do you think you're gonna go? I finally gave up on them as well after like 3 or 4 weeks of me. They're gonna come back, they're gonna come back, and I
Right.
finally gave up on them and they started coming back. And a lot of them was because of that defense.
Defense, yeah.
They basically like Mahomes can be average and he'll still be better than everyone on that Steelers offense except for Najee.
Yeah.
Only thing to look forward to on that Steelers offense is Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Finished fourth in the league with 1,200 yards. But yet, is where does it say that they finished fourth? He finished fourth in the league. But most of Steelers' game plan is to fucking pass to Ben.
True.
I just
I
don't
don't
get
know
it.
why. I don't know why
With
or
that,
how or
their identity has been an issue all year. No one knows what they're doing. No one knows what they need to do. Hey, at the end of the day, it got them to the playoffs, so I guess they can say it worked. But it ain't gonna win them any games, and it ain't gonna get them past.
right.
Uh, basically, they give Ben too much power in too many plays for them to come out against a team like the Chiefs when their defense has actually been what's holding them down the last couple weeks. Even if Mahomes is having a bad day with a bad year, uh, he had a whole bad year and they still ended up number two in offense and number two in passing offense. So at the end of the day, like he didn't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he literally,
Right.
it's like the LeBron factor. We
A
got
bad
so
year for him is the best year for somebody
dominating
else. Right.
literally for so long. Now at the age of 36, we just like, oh my God, 25, 5-5. What is wrong with him? Like, no,
Like, bro,
Mahomes might have looked like
still
bad
playing
year this year,
everyone
but he looked
90% of the field.
yeah. So he's just good, man. Obviously, even without that defense, I was still picking to win. But the fact that defense is top five in turnovers and seem to be very good at providing pressure, or pretty much trying to get sacks
Yeah,
and constant pressure.
I
So
agree.
that's a surprise.
I
That's
agree.
what we're made for. But that's
Yep.
what they came out this year and that front seven showed out, especially that front four. So basically, you got a born again defense with second best offense in the league going up against the average team who's going to try to throw against you, and you can't go in a shooting matchup with Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Uh, just like the first time they played, it was a scraping. This
Yep.
is going to be a 34-16 scraping as well. Pretty
Yeah.
much, no one got the Steelers going past the first round. It's going to be a hell of a freaking game. Chiefs are going to run or not throw all over them. And bye bye, Ben. It was nice seeing you. You had a great career.
You know what, bro? Actually, I think about this game. You're a little. Nah, let me stop. Nah, you're totally right about everything you said. You're totally right. Honestly, there's not much I can add other than, I mean, just want to add what you pretty much said is the only offense that, or the only exciting weapon that Pittsburgh really has is Najee Harris. That's who you really
Mm-hmm.
want to see. I mean,
Right.
that's what they got. Uh, Obviously Ben Roethlisberger is out there. He's a shell of himself. He's a statue in the pocket. And like you stated, the Kansas City defense, they love to sack the quarterback. They're getting a lot of sacks this year, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's gonna be a difference this
I
year.
think
I
they're
mean,
number one in sacks.
I
Like,
think they are too. Yeah, I think they definitely getting like I think 2.2 per game is what it said. 2.2 per game. So I think that is number one. Uh, so that is going to be a big thing for me in this game. I think that they're going to get a bunch of
mm-hmm.
sacks. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they get like 5 or 6 sacks on them. I really wouldn't be surprised if they get 6 sacks. Like that would not be surprising. And maybe like 10 quarterback hits, in a lot of hurries. My man Ben is just a statue in the quarterback in the pocket. He doesn't throw the ball fast enough. They don't have enough weapons on offense, and for that reason, I just think this game is going to be a blowout. You eloquently stated pretty much how Patrick Mahomes has been playing. Even though he's been playing mediocre, he's still playing better than 90% of the people that are in the NFL. So as far as quarterbacks go. So you can't ever count against them, I don't think, especially when a team is going in hot into the playoffs. Yeah, they lost their last game, but I really don't think that they needed to even win it. They weren't gonna really get much from winning it because they already saw, what happened with Tennessee. So they knew
Mm-hmm.
that they were that number one seed, and for that reason, I just got this game as blowout. Honestly, I think this is going to be a huge win for Kansas City. I got this. Uh, honestly, 34-10.
No, I definitely see that. I think there's a lot of times where Steelers struggle to put points on the board and they win by their
Yeah,
defense.
yeah,
This is not going to be one of those games. They're not going to win by their defense. They're just going to struggle all around. So I definitely got it as a blowout as well.
yeah.
100%. And honestly, that's like I said, that game plus freaking Bucks versus Eagle both happened on Sunday. So obviously, for most people, that Cowboys versus
The Cowboys
49ers,
game.
that one game
Hmm.
that Sundays bring, Saturday brings two competitive matchups. Sunday bring at least one, and
Right.
then we get down to the last game of the
Monday
first week.
night, and they put us on
Monday
Monday
night,
night.
finally got a Monday night game in the playoffs, and I'll be honest, besides that Cowboys game, this is probably the most nerve-wracking game
Yeah,
of the first round of playoffs.
for me too.
We are talking divisional matchup, two very, very Super Bowl worthy teams,
Definitely Super
and
Bowl caliber
obviously, definitely dynamic offenses.
for sure.
Cardinals versus Rams. Good news is Rams kept the division, so Rams get home seed.
Yep.
So at least they play home. But at the end of the day,
It doesn't mean
this is
much.
probably the
Arizona
most
and
neutral.
LA,
This is literally the most neutral spot you can play at if you in the first round. So it's
especially because
home.
Arizona is
Hopefully
so
it don't matter.
close to LA. There's gonna be so many fans from Arizona that come in. If it would have been something
It's
like,
playoffs.
yeah, if it would have been something like New York to LA, then yeah, it would have been something different. But now that Rams are not getting much of a home field.
Not at all. So pretty much, this would be a high scoring game. There's no way around it.
Oh, okay.
Both quarterbacks are prone to make errors with inconsistent defenses. So like that's why this game is so stressful because it's so hard to choose because both have honestly the same strengths and the same weaknesses, man.
Yeah,
And it's just
true.
honestly gonna come down to who makes less mistakes and
Yes.
whose offense
Yep.
execute the longest. Basically, whoever's offense stalls first loses. Simple as that.
Hmm.
Um, so I'll be honest. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna go with Rams. Another one where I may have went with a little bit of bias, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I went with bias with this one because of the stats that I have to back it up.
Right.
Uh, Arizona's like kind of been average since D Hop kind of got injured.
That's true.
You see a lot of problems with that. And then on top of that, the Rams themselves, they barely lost against the 49ers.
Yep.
They beat the Cardinals a few weeks ago. Like, yeah, they a little inconsistent, but like I said, what team in the NFL hasn't been this year?
Hmm.
So if you got both of those inconsistent teams, at this point, I'm choosing a more complete team. Rams are better on offense. So missing D Hop dropped the Cardinals down to 20
Huge.
points a game when they were almost at 30. Really, really dropped them down a lot. They're
Huge.
missing
Yeah.
a huge piece. At the end of the day, can't nobody stop Cooper Cup. And when you got a defense going up against Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Jalen Ramsey, and it's the second time they're going up against you in about a month, and that first time they beat you, like I said, it's a different Rams team. It took overtime for the 40 or damn near in overtime for the 49ers to even beat them, and it was a high powered game, and the Rams just couldn't get it done. So they're a lot better off going into this playoffs than most people would say. The Cardinals, like you said, Cardinals probably was a better option for the Cowboys because they are the
Yeah.
team that's a little not
So
all the
true.
way there.
Definitely so true.
Never was the same after missing D Hop. Probably the worst team in the league when it comes to what they've been doing when it comes to starting off the hottest team and then falling off.
Yeah.
If anything, you want to be the opposite. Like I'd rather
And
take
that's
the Patriots
surprising.
or the Chiefs starting off slow and ending hot over the Cardinals start off hot and just kind of slowed down.
And that's
So
surprising too to me. They got two good running backs.
I know it is, and that's I mean, bro, a
That's a good
lot
point.
had to do with D Hop, man.
Yeah.
Like, I understand other people got injured, but bro, their average points, and obviously Kyler got injured a few
Yes.
games,
Yeah. For sure. Yep.
but their average points between those 3 weeks is drastically dropped.
Yep.
So they basically had to create a whole new game plan because at that point they were using 4 or 5 wideout sets. When your
Yep.
best receiver dropped down, now you have to
Everyone's got to
drop
move
three,
up.
four
Mhm.
wideout sets because you don't have 5 receivers that you could throw out there anymore. You don't have those. You're not about to pull a fifth receiver from the practice squad. Like at that point, you're gonna try to run the ball a little more, and
Yep.
they're figuring a lot of things out. So at this point, the Rams are in a good position to beat them. Their offense is looking good. I think their defense has a good shot at making Kyler Murray a little uncomfortable.
Uh,
So I definitely got this a 28-24 win for the Rams. It's going to be a close game. But and that's what I said. I don't think I picked with the bias. But I'll be honest, there's not many teams besides Cowboys that I would have picked against the Rams, and that's because of bias. If you put
right.
Cowboys and Rams, I wouldn't know who to pick because I want both of them to win. But any other team, Bucks, Eagles, 49ers, I would have picked. Like literally, 49ers just beat the Rams, and if they play them
They
again,
did, but it was, yeah,
I would have. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not
yeah.
going to be a scraping.
I think so
So
too,
right now,
especially
the
2 weeks
Rams
in a
are
row.
looking very good. For me, the Rams and the Cowboys are my two teams. One I think has a potential to make it. The other one I want to make it, and the
Mm,
Cowboys I want them to make it. So one of those teams are going to be my two picks. I'm facing the Packers.
got you.
Well, it depends. It depends on how healthy the Bucks is in 2 weeks.
Right,
Either way, it's so hard to choose. I can't even make up my mind right now. Those four
right.
teams. Either way, Rams versus Cardinals. Rams beat Cardinals 28-24. And as depressing as it may be, unfortunately, the Cardinals get kicked in the first round of playoffs when it damn near looked like they were the best team in the NFL 8 weeks ago.
I know. I mean, yeah, all up until like the first 10 weeks of the season, you could say that the Cardinals were definitely
Best
the best
team in the
team,
NFL.
and they looked like they were unstoppable. Some people even had them almost like going undefeated, just
Even
the
won
way
a
they were
game
looking.
without Kyler Murray.
And if you remember, they were without Chase Edmonds in the beginning of the season. Like he went out, and
Mm-hmm.
then they had to get James Conner. He was balling out. He had like the most rushing touchdowns at one point. I think he's at like 13 right now, but at one point he was at like 11 rushing touchdowns, and he had the most. And now they just got back Chase Edmonds, so I'm definitely a little bit more worried about this game than you are with the Rams. I'm glad that you're saying that we can take care of them. The Rams, that is, like that's my team. If people don't
I
know,
mean,
I
it's gonna
love
be
the
a close
Rams.
game, but
Yeah,
I
I
got the
I,
boys.
I agree with you there. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to give my score. My score is going to be 25-24. I'm not going to give my winner just yet until I give my prediction. I mean, until I get
You
my
act like I don't know
analysis.
who your winner is.
All right, all right. Yeah, you guys are probably right. I'm a
You
Rams
act like
fan.
I.
Everybody
Yeah,
knows.
right.
Everybody knows. Okay. My score is 25-24. Here's the thing. I think this game is scary for us. I think it's definitely worrisome that we're playing our somebody in our division. Just
Mm.
like the Bills, I think it's going to be a close game. I think anytime it's a divisional game, it's always close, and especially when you know each other this well. I do think that we're definitely getting a little bit of a sigh of relief without D Hop being out there, and we finally actually got back our running back Sony Michelle. He just came back a few weeks ago, so he's been starting to like get back into the rotation. Last week he actually played a little bit better, so we're starting to put him into the rotation. Obviously Cooper Kupp has been playing amazing all year. I mean, what can you say about this man? Like, yeah, it was 18 weeks, but every week he was pretty much consistent, got almost over 100 yards. So you got to give this man like a lot of credit. Nobody really looked at him as like the top receiver in the beginning of the season, but you just saw like his potential even from last year. He definitely got better and better even this year. Once we lost even our running back in the beginning of the season, Cam Akers, and now we're getting him back as well. So the Rams are finally getting back a lot of our guys. We're getting back Cam Akers. We're getting back Sony Michelle. We still got Henderson out there. That's going to be a running back. Uh, we got a pretty great defense, I could say. I mean, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller. What can you say about those guys? They're literally superstars. If they're able to, like you said, make it uncomfortable for Kyler Murray, I'm going to be very happy. I think that this game is definitely going to be more of a running game for the Cardinals, just because they're losing that offensive weapon on as far as D Hop. I think
Mm-hmm.
that my man Ertz for Zach Ertz for the Cardinals is going to get a lot of targets. I think he's probably going to get like 8 catches, something like that. probably around 75 yards. He's going to be a big target for them because the Rams are, yeah, Von Miller's going to have to take him a few times, but as far as our outside linebackers, we're never really good at taking care of the tight end. We're always having a tough time, especially this year. But if we're able to hold down the outside, if Jalen Ramsey's going to be able to hold down like AJ Green or Christian Kirk, and is able to hold them to under 100 yards, I think it's going to make them a lot more tougher for the Arizona Cardinals to score points, especially in the red zone. We're pretty good at holding down the run in the red zone, and the Cardinals are actually really good at running the ball in the red zone with James Conner. James Conner is the best in the NFL in rushing in the red zone. So if we're able to stop him, then we definitely are able to stop the outside guys because they really, if you look at, I mean, yeah, Zach Ertz is tall. He's probably like their tallest wideout. Like, yeah, AJ Green is big, but he's around like 6'1", and a guy like Jalen Ramsey, he could definitely take AJ Green in the red zone if it's like when they do those little high tosses to get a touchdown when it's like a 1 yard play. I definitely think that Jalen Ramsey and AJ Green match up very well. I think the one that doesn't match up well is Zach Ertz, so he's gonna be a problem in the red zone, but. I think that otherwise our rush defense is going to be able to stop James Conner.
Boy, Von Miller better lock Zach Ertz ass up.
I hope so, but the problem is that he doesn't always go back. Sometimes the Rams have like an outside linebacker go against the tight end, and they let Von Miller obviously rush. They like him as a rusher, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, I love our defensive coach Les Frazier. Has been amazing all year. He loves the blitz. And I think he's going to do a lot of that in this game. I think we're definitely going to get a lot of sacks this game, probably 3 sacks. And we're definitely going to make him rush around a lot, Kyler Murray, that is. My worry is my man Stafford. I think he might get an interception this game. I definitely think that he's due for another one of those. He's been doing it consistently, throwing interceptions. As long as it's not a pick six, it's not going to hurt us as much. If he just throws one maybe where it's on the other side of the field, it might not hurt us as much. If it's a pick six, it's going to hurt a lot. But just for that reason, I just got this a lot closer. I do think the Rams are going to come out at the end, but I think it's going to be a lot closer game. Like, yeah, these guys are division, they play in their own division, so they're tough games when they play against each other. They're always close. And I just think the Rams at the end, somehow, some way, Matt Stafford is going to come out in the fourth quarter and try to win it, try to get his first playoff game. This will be his first win in the playoffs. Because Matthew Stafford, yeah, he's been there before, and the last time he went there was against Dallas, and that was that Calvin Johnson catch where you thought that Calvin Johnson caught it, but then it hit the ground and they didn't catch it. But I think he's due for a win, and he definitely wants it real bad. I think it's tough that the Rams got this matchup. Same with the Cardinals. I think it's tough for the Cardinals that they got this matchup, but we're gonna have to get like this good matchup sometime. And I'm hoping that my Rams could take it 25-24. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100% confident. Like that, I'm a little worried.
Oh no! Besides Cowboys, 49ers, this is the most worrisome matchup. Most experts got this game 3 points or less, just like us. So,
and I got this 1 point. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's definitely about to be tough.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great to end it on a note like this. I mean, one thing, it's cool that they're adding us, another game on Monday. But then again, the way that I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, but if my Rams win, and then next week we're gonna have to turn around and play on a Sunday, most likely on a Sunday, because they're not gonna make us play on a Saturday. There's no way go from Monday to Saturday, so it'll probably be on a Sunday. But still, we're gonna have to play a team that either has a bye, which would be most likely Green Bay, since we're the 4th seed. If everybody wins, who's above us, let's say Tampa Bay and Dallas wins, and we win, the Rams would have to play. Yeah, we're the 4th seed. Plus, we play on a Monday. We would have to play a team that just had their bye. So I don't think that makes it fair. Where if somebody like if they had somebody.
And so you want the 49ers to win, huh?
I don't want, honestly. I don't even know what I want to happen. But
then you could face the Bucks.
We need a lower seed. Yeah, we need a lower seed to win for us to make sure we don't play Green Bay. Is what I'm saying. But either way, we're still gonna have a disadvantage because we're gonna have one less day of practice,
Of course.
or whoever wins that Rams.
Right. Oh, whoever won. Nah,
Right,
say y'all. Say
right. I'm hoping us.
y'all. I'm gonna go with y'all.
Right, I hope so. But that's great to end it on the Rams. I love that. I definitely love that to
Can't go wrong
end
with
the
that.
playoff episode on the Rams winning. Hopefully, we'll see. Definitely fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But definitely a great episode to talk about all these
Yes.
playoff scenarios and obviously like everything that's been going on in the league. All these storylines that have been going on. They're starting to get hot right now, and right now is like the push. Right now is the push.
Of course, those who lasted the 2+ hours with us,
Hmm.
you basically now know exactly what's going to happen, what did happen, how we started off, how we got here. Like we damn near made y'all NFL playoff experts at this
Right,
point.
right. If
So
you didn't know about the NFL playoffs, now you.
oh man, now you do, man. So we definitely want to thank the fans for sticking with us. This definitely right off a jump before we're even done. I already tell you this is our longest episode. But when you got NFL playoffs and like you said, one extra week, one extra team, one less bye, it's a lot of content. So
For sure, for
we could
sure.
sit here and talk football for freaking days,
Oh, of
especially when
course.
it comes to playoffs. So at this point, let's just watch these games, see how that
Hmm.
first round comes, see some of our picks happen,
Hmm.
and you already know you're gonna see us right back in for
Definitely
that
talking
second
about it next week.
round
Hmm.
and see about what's going on, man. But NFL playoffs, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to get to the Super Bowl, man. I can't wait.
That's for sure. That's for sure. I can't wait either. And like you said, we're definitely gonna be back next week talking about the winners and if we predict things right and if we predict things wrong. We'll see. I mean, you can never get
Hmm.
things right 100%, but what can you do? That's why I like predicting. I obviously no one that predicts is going to be 100%, but I like predicting just knowing where I'm at. And I feel like this year we've definitely been above that 50% mark. We've been around that 75% to 80. So
We've
I
done our
definitely think
research. I love it.
right, right. So that's what I love, and I love seeing it. I love seeing the progression with all the podcasts that we had. Like you said, this is definitely our longest episode, but it's a lot of content in the NFL playoff picture and what can happen, teams that can win. And we definitely appreciate everyone that's been listening to all these
Hmm.
episodes and listening to this one. This has been a great episode, and really appreciate you guys, staying with us, checking us out on social media and stuff. If you want to watch the full episode in its entirety, please go ahead and check us out on YouTube. If you want to listen to us, please, check us out wherever you listen to your podcast. If you got any questions, you guys can go ahead and check us out on social media, right?
Of course, that's what we're here for, not to just give you the content, but interact with you guys and just create a community of sports fans, man. That's why we started this. That's why we do the social media, not just to really let you know when we're posting, when we drop episodes, but we love our fan interaction. We want to make sure that we're all here to love sports. Sports bring people together, and we
Hell
want to
yeah.
be the people that can bridge that gateway for you guys. So definitely want to hear the comments, concerns, anything you want, predictions. Let us know who you got too. That's what we're here for.
Hmm.
So definitely, we love all the fans, man.
That's right. So really appreciate you guys listening to this episode of Who You Got with
Mellow.
and Rado. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.